Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 260. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me here in Las Vegas. We are at the currently quarantined Casa de Cold Coffee.
Self-quarantined.
Self-quarantined.
But it's funny, I feel like I'm stealing Doyle's remark yesterday, but it's so true. This whole quarantine thing, that's just like life. That's just like normal routine. When I think about it, like I don't leave the house for a lot of shit.
Right.
You know, go to the grocery store, go to whatever, go do a work thing or whatever. But it's so funny when you remarked that yesterday. I was like, wow, this really is. I was like, everybody's like, oh man, stay home all day and blah blah blah. I'm like,
really all we do anyway. I mean, we do travel a lot, but when we're not traveling,
I just want to stay home.
Right. We don't leave the house. We don't leave the house at all.
So welcome to our world, folks.
No doubt. It is day 2 of lockdown as far as Las Vegas is concerned.
Yeah.
We finally got the mandate from the governor. I guess it's interesting because it's a recommendation. It's not a requirement, which is kind of weird. Like, it's very clear that I guess legally they can't do anything to you. I noticed there's a big story right now in the Las Vegas community because Little Darlings, a strip club, for instance, they're saying, nah, we're staying open.
Yeah, I saw a place on Fremont, the Cat's Meow, which is like a karaoke bar.
Right.
I saw Las Vegas Locally, which we both follow. They put up a link to their like webcam. There's like some of those Earth cams that are all around the world, and one of them's in their location. I guess last night you could see people in there like hanging out or whatever.
Like, sorry, we appreciate the recommendation, but nah.
Which I get it, you know. It is tough because they would need to do some legislation to be able to just make your business shut down, you know, for something. But you kind of want people to sort of follow it because we need to get ahead of this, you know. And so if people comply, we probably have a better chance to kind of get this in check sooner rather than later.
I agree. I've remained conflicted on this whole thing as to how serious. I mean, it's definitely serious, as we talked about multiple times, but it's killing people is the bottom line. It is killing people, and so there is a responsibility. I tell you though, I mean, it is what it is in terms of, you know, I mean, my kid's school's canceled, so my wife, thankfully, like, she's handling the homeschooling and all that, so it really hasn't impacted my life a whole lot. As you said, we're used to working from home, so I don't feel like my life is too much different. I will say the one thing that is annoying me is the panic buying, man. I am so annoyed by not being able to just walk into a grocery store and buy what I want. Like, oh my gosh, well, there's only and it's I've been trying to tell myself.
Even get into the grocery store, like the fact that every grocery store I went by yesterday had a line out the door, and I immediately just drove away.
No.
I mean, luckily I have some stuff already here, you know, in the freezer and things like that. But that's the one thing I've noticed as for affecting our day-to-day, because typically if we're working from home, you make a little time. You're like, okay, I'm going to just run a couple errands. I'm going to go to the store or whatever. We can't do that right now because now that people are either working from home and all this other stuff, the amount of people that are around to go shop during the day has gotten a lot more. And now it's got to the point where all the supermarkets and stuff are queuing people up outside to not let them in. I think maybe partially that's to, I don't know, is it to give them a chance to stock at the same time or something?
Probably.
They just don't want, you know, all the millions of locusts to get in there and just hoard the shelves and take everything. It's crazy to see.
It just annoys me when
I
see somebody like with like 50 pounds of ground beef in their shopping cart. I was like, look, if you would just buy normal amounts, we'd all be fine. Like,
then everybody could have tacos.
We could all have stuff. Yeah, exactly right, man. It's just and you know, the thing I've been trying to tell myself is that, listen, we are incredibly fortunate to be where we are in life. You know, America is a wonderful country. It's got a lot of faults, don't get me wrong. But in terms of like, hey, man, we can pretty much go buy whatever we want, whenever we want, all the time. I mean, there's a large portion of the population on this planet that is always in situations like this where it's not like I can't just run to the grocery store and I'll take one of these and two of these and three of that. So I'm trying to remind myself, like, hey, bro, it's not as bad as it feels right now. It's just different, man. We spent our whole life being this way, and it's just different, man. But it does annoy me when I see, I don't know, man, just think of other people, man. Like, you're going to have food. Don't take all the damn food. Other people need food too.
Yeah. Do like a normal shopping trip. If you get stuff that lasts you the week, and maybe some extra stuff that could take you into the next week.
Yeah.
Like a normal trip. You know, like, do it. You don't need to stock up for a month for the fear that, you know, you literally are going to be hungered in your house for
Bro, we're
a
good.
month. You know,
People are making food. They didn't say the food manufacturers are shut down. Like, we're good.
Even the Las Vegas Metro's been going on, you know, doing some videos from like the Smith's warehouse. Like, folks, there's plenty of food. Drivers are they're buying so much that half of it's just getting the stuff to it.
Oh, yeah.
So that these drivers they did something and cleared it to where they could work more overtime, because that's how crazy it's gotten to, where the drivers have to literally just stay on the ground to keep product moving from warehouse to warehouse to stores. And so it's like, people, there is food there, but if you all buy it in one moment, you never give them a chance to stock it back up and let the person behind you get something. So get what you need for the week or whatever. Just do a normal trip.
Just do a normal trip.
If your normal trip is, hey, I like to go to the grocery store every day, okay, bulk it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But if your thing is, like me and Agent H, we go to the grocery store maybe once a week or once every couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we get what we need, and then we're good, you know? People are just, the fact that they're just like, I'm never going to be able to go, you know, I'm never going to believe. Nobody's barring you into your house and making you stay inside your house. You could still leave your house, you know. Just do it smart, you know. Don't drag your whole family with you. I heard people were doing that. They were, you know, bringing their kids, both parents. It's like, that seems to me where you'd want to keep some home, like limit the amount of people, you know. But then somebody was telling me, well, some places are limiting people to one item or a limited amount of item, so they're gaming the system. So they'll have the wife go up there and get something, then the husband goes get something, and then Junior goes up there. I get it that you're doing that, but what in the hell do you need that bad that you need to have that many people? You know, all you're doing is making it worse and giving more opportunities for somebody to get infected and bring it back into your household.
Stop it with the damn panic buying.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy to see it. Here we are in the middle of the desert. I never thought it would get to the degree of what it is here with the shopping. I kind of was wondering how casinos would do it. I never thought I'd see the day when they said, casinos, you're all shutting. You can't even go play a gaming machine anywhere. All the bars closing. I never thought I would see a day like this here in Vegas.
Even more shocking and painful, B-dubs is carry-out only right now. I mean, can you imagine? Do you understand the impact this is having on my life?
It's literally like they kidnapped your kid.
Oh, I can only pick up at B-dubs, and while I'm waiting on my food, I can't have a frosty beverage. I have
3.
I can't do this. Yeah, usually it's 3. I can't have it. It's just, I mean, this is impacting my life. The coronavirus has gone way too far. All right, listen, episode 260. You know what that means?
Will they let you get a beer for your carryout if you pick it up?
Well, no.
You put it in a solo cup. I promise I'll drink it right here. I will not leave the establishment.
I did go, well, because, I mean, they've pulled all their liquor and stuff, but, like, I did go the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'll just go to the liquor store, buy a beer, and I'll sit in my car and drink a beer while I wait. And I was like, that's totally illegal. I'm like, I'm gonna get arrested. I was like, that's just stupid. I was like, John, don't be an idiot. So I didn't. So by the way, I didn't open the beer. I just sat there and waited for the food. Episode 260. That means it's a milestone for us, sir.
It is
5 full years of shows. Now it's a little bit off. Because here's the deal. Our first episode was April 5th, 2015. Okay. But 5 times 52 is 260. We have never missed a single week in 5 years. Knock on wood is right.
I just knocked on
I
wood.
saw you knocking on wood, and you're right. I'm just jinxing. There's a pandemic going on, and
brother,
I'm like,
you brought the
we've
pandemic
never missed an episode.
Come on, coronavirus, F you.
Yeah. So in 5 calendar years, basically, worth of time. Now, it's thrown off a little bit because 2016 was a leap year and 2020 was a leap year. So I guess in some ways, if we're talking about years, we got to make it 2 more weeks. But five 52-week blocks in a row, never missing an episode.
And if you count all the and a halves, like we've easily done many more than the 260s.
The what? I don't know.
It's if you go to Patreon, you'll figure it all out.
Yeah.
But, it's crazy, man. But that's awesome, man. It's crazy to think. I still remember that first one so vividly because we were getting eaten up by the mosquitoes sitting out on the little patio there.
In Florida.
In Florida. Miami, right?
Yeah, we had done, I think Delray Beach is exactly where we were. We had rented a little Airbnb. We were doing a visit where we visited American Top Team and the Black Zillions and did a bunch of interviews and figured.
You had to go do a passport thing, too, didn't you?
Oh, you're right about that. I had to do some kind of passport update
I
while
think you
we
had
were
to do
there.
a passport or something. I remember that was
Yeah.
part of it or something. But yeah, it was interesting. But I remember I hadn't been eaten by mosquitoes in a while, and I don't know if it was something about the Florida ones. My legs had a bad reaction. I remember I was like itching for like a week or so after that.
What a launch.
I know. I was like,
This
and at the time
podcast
it was
sucks.
just like just a weird random thing. It was like, oh, we're gonna try this podcast. We'll see what happens with it. We'll see what happens with it. But thinking that 5 years worth of just those 5 years of the main podcast later, still going
Pretty
strong.
crazy, right? Never missed a single week.
It's nuts.
Our boy Mark Fellows, obviously a big supporter of us, man. He reached out, by the way, and congratulated me. Congratulated us both, I should say. But he reached out to me behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, sure he did.
And
he
also
wrote
said,
on the card. He was like, "Congrats, John." Oh yeah, pass it on.
"Oh, and that other guy that's with you.
Pass it on to the other guy.
Pass it on to the other guy." No, he congratulated us both. But and it was funny because he did say, he was like, "Man, that's so awesome, like what you do, and we appreciate it." Now, if you need to take a break during this time off, we're all kind of in this,
Sir.
That's what I said.
Sir.
That's exactly what I said. I said, man, and listen, I did think about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Over the next couple weeks, are we maybe going to be a little bit light on heavy MMA topics to talk about? Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe he was like, maybe you could do some beer reviews or something. I was like, that's something we could do.
Well, let's start right here.
Well,
I'm drinking this cool, cold, refreshing Pabst Blue Ribbon in this lovely packaging. It's red, white, and blue. It's an award-winning beer.
easy drinking.
Easy drinking. You can
Light.
easy.
It's a good session beer.
12.
You can have several.
You can have several.
You can easily have a 12-pack.
I'm glad that you've been coming over with 2 12-packs for every show recently, because it's that easy to drink. It's that easy to drink it.
That's it. Well, cold coffee. It's funny you should say that because today I have been consuming Pabst Blue Ribbon as well, sir. It is
crazy.
Yeah,
so crazy. You figure maybe in another 260 episodes, maybe we'll have a sponsorship by Pabst.
Oh, man, come on.
Like episode, what's that, man?
520. You could have had this PBR. You could have had. Well, what are you talking about? We've been advertising for him anyway.
I know.
Man,
what's funny? I
that's
had one point I did a draft email. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put a spiel together, and I'm gonna really sell them on why they should sponsor us. And then I forgot about it, and I remember I stumbled upon that draft in my email, and I was like, what is this draft from like 6 months ago? And I was like, oh well. I'll get to it another day.
I didn't know you'd start that. You need to get back on that.
I literally just
now
put
is the time.
Now is the time. It was just literally their name in the to field.
Well, listen, that was the draft of your email.
Yeah,
I really put some effort into it.
I didn't really get too far.
But you know what? I was thinking about it. So it's funny, like, because we're going to be light on heavy MMA. Now, I will say this. I'm going to continue to reach out to fighters. I'm going to continue to reach out to people. I'm going to continue because we need we need content for MMA Junkie. So I'm going to be talking to people. So we're going to have content. But honestly, like I thought now, honestly, more than ever, man, people probably need entertainment right now. And I'm not saying that we've got the biggest audience of all time or we're the most entertaining people of all time. But man, I think people want a little bit of normalcy in their lives. I know that I definitely do. So,
yeah.
I don't want it to go away. I mean, I always say I watch what do they call it? ESPN Plus FC, I think is what they call it, or whatever. ESPN FC. It's ESPN's daily soccer show. I watch it every night. Now, sometimes I only half watch it, like I'm not super intent on it, but it's just I like having that little update of what's going on in the world, and so I don't want to pull back, man. I really don't want to take a break. I want to keep going so that everybody, the people that do care and that do listen, that it just continues on. And the other thing too is that the coronavirus and what's going on, we're not going to be able to ignore it because look, it's impacting our lives. It would be silly if we weren't talking about it to some degree. But I do promise this as well. I do not want it to remain a central theme of our shows as long as this whole thing is going on. I mean, It would be impossible not to talk about it because it's impacting our lives and how we're operating and how we move about and all that. So, a little mention here and there. Hey, what are you up to? How are you handling this? Great. But I do not want it to be the central theme because I'll be honest, man, this thing is here and it ain't going away for a while, and I don't want to think about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, man. I need a little respite from COVID-19.
Yeah, it's you're right, and it's gonna be tough to think that we're not gonna have to address it at some point because hopefully every time it'll get a little bit better. Like this is how it's affecting Vegas now, and this is how it's affecting whatever. But soon well, hopefully soon it'll be nothing more than rearview mirror talk.
I hope so as well. All right, listen. And again, in keeping with that vein of we're going to have to talk about it a little bit, but it's not the central focus, I did want to check in with somebody whose fight was canceled this week. So reached out to Marvin Vettori. His story is incredibly interesting. And by the way, I reached out to talk to him. I think the first part of this interview that you're going to hear is basically I think he needed just somebody to vent to, which is kind of fun. It ends up being very not safe for work. Although I guess if everybody's working from home now, I guess it's as safe for work as you want it to be, right? There is no more not safe for work.
There you go. Unless you're one of those essential people that must be at work. And then if so, Blair, because
there's nobody else around you. So, dude, this is now very safe for work. But
I like it.
So his story is interesting, right? So he flew over to London. He was supposed to be on the card. He was fighting Darren Stewart. He flew over to London, then basically was told, hey, fly back, but we're still going to get you a fight because we're going to relocate. That's when the UFC was kind of making that effort to relocate the card to the United States. I think it was ultimately going to be in Oklahoma, but the bands kept getting smaller and smaller on crowds. Darren Stewart is going to fight on the Cage Warriors card, and we'll talk about the Cage Warriors event in a little bit. So had Marvin stayed over there, he might have been able to fight on that card, but then the travel ban from Europe to the United States would have affected him because he's not an American citizen. He's an Italian citizen. He has a visa,
right.
And I don't think that would have been honored. So he would have gotten stuck over there. So that he had to get out and get back. His opponent, again, like I said, Darren Stewart, is going to be fighting Bartosz Fabinski on Cage Warriors card. So that is happening on Friday. But anyway, I just want to check in with Marvin, and you'll see he gets a little bit worked up. If the youngins are around, if you got the youngins around because you're sitting at home, maybe put the headphones on right now. Yeah, or turn it down or have them leave the room because Marvin does vent a little bit. But here's what he had to say.
Hi, John.
Hey, brother, all good?
All good.
Awesome, man. Well, tell me where you are right now, man. I know you've been flying all over the world, man. Where are you at right now?
Yeah. Oh, I'm back in California. I'm here in Huntington. Yep.
How is
Huntington Beach?
I was gonna say, how is have you finally given up? I know you've been trying to fight, man. Have you finally accepted that you're not gonna fight this weekend, or you still holding out hope?
Until yesterday, man. Still yesterday. Throughout the morning, I was like, fly me out, whatever, fly me out. And now I fucking think I gave it up. But I'm still hoping I'm fighting soon, man. Fuck, man, this thing is really delaying my mission to get to the top, It pissed me off.
I get it, man. So, I mean, you flew out to London. When you went, I mean, did you have concerns that you weren't going to be able to fight, or did you think, I mean...
And you know when this thing is going to really hit me? When I'm going to see those Cage Warriors fights going on, man. I'm like, fuck!
Oh, man. So did you, I mean, when you went out there, were you concerned at all that you might not get to fight, or did you think, like, I'm definitely fighting?
Well, what happened over there was, like, I mean, they're like, UFC London is canceled, and it might be moved to U.S., and you might not be able to even go back to the U.S. So nobody even ever thought about, like, they might move it to Cage Warrior, and, like, 2 bouts that they're going to be done under Cage Warrior. Nobody in the world could have ever thought that.
Right.
And everybody was freaking out. Let's like, we're gonna be struggling to go back to the U.S., so we really need to go back. And I was like, man, chill, everybody. They woke me up at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, in the middle, like, because they're like, oh, fight is off, we have to go back, and everybody's freaking out. Like, chill a moment. But nobody would ever thought that the fight would have been moved to. Some of the fights would have been moved to Cage Warrior. So that's what happened. I'm like, all right, well, if anything, they're just gonna move it to US somehow. So I'm better going back. And I actually asked, like, are they flying out my guy? And they're like, yeah, they're flying him out. I'm like, all right, well then maybe it's actually happening. Then I see all this bunch of crying, whiny babies that, like, are not taking fights. First of everybody, Tyron Woodley, and then Leon Edwards not being able to fly out. And I'm like, man, like, it's your most important fight of your life, and I get it. Like, your team has family and all that, but you're not leaving for a war. You're leaving for 5 days, 6, 7 days. You're gonna be back. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well,
what the fuck are you talking about?
It's good that you left though, right? Because you would have gotten stuck over there. Right? I mean, you're not a U.S. citizen, so you probably wouldn't have been able to get back, right?
Yeah, but he's a UK citizen, so he would have been able to come back here too, for sure.
Well, so what's this been like for you, man? I mean, it seems like you sound frustrated to say the least. Has this been a tough experience for you? What's the whole thing been like?
It is, man. It's still it's weird. I feel like it's weird. I mean, in first place, it's a whole weird situation for the coronavirus because everything's shutting down. But then it's crazy. I feel like it's whatever. Like I don't feel that bad too much. And every like couple of hours, I'm like, fuck, man. But I was supposed to fight this weekend. And I'm not fighting. I don't know. Maybe it's because luckily in my career it didn't happen that many times.
Right.
And the only time that it happened actually is the last time that I got rescheduled a month after. So it's happening now twice in a row.
Oh, I'd totally forgotten about that. That's right. That's got to be really frustrating.
Yeah. Yes. So
what's your plan for now? What are you going to do? I mean, I guess we don't know anything. I mean, maybe a month. You know, UFC 249, I guess. But I mean, all the cards are full. So
well,
I mean, what's the plan?
Yeah, even on my rest days, I'm training twice a day. So to me, training is I love training, and it's just like stay ready for me is not a big issue. I'm just straight out savage. You know, the more I do this, the more I just embrace it all the way, and I'm just gonna stay ready. But I don't know what's going on, man. I'm gonna be ready for everything, though. Like I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna be ready, man. It's frustrating. The whole thing is frustrating. Even seeing that title, I was there watching it live, seeing that title fight last time. It is frustrating, man. Like I'm like, fuck. Like I belong to the top, and I know I can make this division better. And this whole shit is delaying everything. But I mean, we are into like a crazy situation right now, and this whole thing creates like it doesn't. You help others, but then you have problems with yourself, and like to help others, you really have to be good. You have to be really fine with yourself first, and then help others. You know, like you can't like if two broken things can make one good. You know, like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it is a very weird situation, and he's bringing the war to his knees, and it kind of like it's super weird to me. This whole thing is very weird. Numbers don't add up a lot of times when you see the situation, and it's just very weird. But we don't know, and we just have we're. So that is frustrating because we just know we can't do anything about this.
Right.
We're just watching it.
How do you have family back in Italy? I mean, I know it sounds like it's getting pretty bad over
Yeah.
there. Do you have family back there?
Yeah, I have family. Nobody has been affected by. I know people that had it, and they didn't even have that. Like it's like 2-3 days, and they were fine. But I get it. Like this thing hit everybody differently, so I get it.
Yeah, it's a weird
Everybody
situation.
gets hit differently, and old people can. But that's the thing. Like people are easily influenced. That's what I'm saying, and that's a fact. I'm not even saying it's not right. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm saying people get influenced too much. I'm trying to say they should try to stick to facts more than actual media. But yeah, I mean. It is happening, and it is a problem, and we need to solve it somehow. And I think we don't know how to solve it.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that a lot of times, even in Italy, we're taking so many precautions, and it's not making it any better. So I'm like, it might spread with throughout some other things that we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because they're taking precautions. Everybody's shut down. Everybody almost can't take their house without a good reason, and it's still getting worse. So.
Are they scared over there? Is your family scared? Are they okay? Or
people are scared. My my family's not really too scared. But I mean, I don't know. It's just like a normal. It is. There is fear, but I don't know.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't know, bro. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. People would say, "Oh, you're stupid" or something. I'm not scared of this.
No,
But
dude, I'm still trying to figure it out too, because I mean, like for me, especially for you guys, I mean, you know, UFC athletes are some of the most fit people on the planet. Like if you guys get sick, it's probably not going to be anything. But then, like you said, the problem is it spreads to somebody else and they get sick and die.
It's funny, man. I know some badass dude, like, they've been through a lot of shit, and they're the most scared of this shit. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't get it. Like, they've been doing, like, crazy ass shit in their life. They've been through some, and they're like, oh, yeah, but, like, this thing is, like, and telling me all this. I know, but, like, come on, man. Like, yeah. But it's weird. Like, they've been, like, I know for a fact they've been through some crazy stuff, and they're like freaking out about this. But I don't know. You know, it's not tangible. Like a lot of people, when they don't see things, they're like, and they just like it gets to their head. Like I don't know. It might be my job that I have to kind of like sometimes I have to filter all the media of what they say, and then that's why maybe a little bit I kind of like know this process a little bit better. I don't know. But for a lot of people, the fact that it's not tangible, like they don't see it, but they see it spreading. They just see it in the media, like every 2 seconds. It affects them, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, talk to me. You said you were cage side for that title fight. What I know that you've always said, man, you could beat Adesanya, and you know. I mean, what were your thoughts on that fight?
I was disappointed on both sides. I think the fault was on both sides. I actually thought Romero won the fight, but it was very close. And I know these New Zealand guys are unbeatable in decisions. You know, if they go to decisions, they're unbeatable. So what I'm saying is that third title fight, 42 years old. You know the situation, and the strategy was good, but then fourth and fifth, like starting from the third, you got to bring it up a little more. And from Adesanya, I'm seeing just a scared guy. Honestly, a scared. Like he didn't want to take risks, and I tell you why. Because Romero was being very good of not reacting to his feints and being very unpredictable, which he always is, but even more, and doing all this weird shit. So Adesanya wouldn't have a lot to build on, and he even if it looks like he's a striker and he does all this weird shit, he plays it safe a lot of times because people fall for this shit. But I've seen it, like when he had to take some risks there because Romero was being good of not reacting and stuff. He's been scared of the whole fight. He got hit a couple times and he just acted like a bitch the whole time. And so that showed me his true colors. That showed me like if there even need to take risks, he's not gonna take them. He's gonna stay real safe. He knows he's not gonna be finished, and he's not gonna beat by decision. So.
What do you think, man? I mean, I know is that a rematch you want down the line? I mean, I know you want to win the title no matter what, but is that a fight you want back?
I definitely want, man, this fight. I won the rematch with all the guys that I lost early in the UFC. You know, I'd love a fight with Antonio Carlos Jr. too, even though he's coming from losses, but he's still higher than me in ranking. So I would love that fight too. I want to fight Adesanya just because man, like Adesanya, right? Like whoever can say whatever they want about my fight, and I have my opinions. He has his opinions. People have their opinions. And because again, media did a lot of work on opinions, on people's opinion on that fight too. But what I'm saying, man, whoever won that fight, and even the judges, one gave it to me, two gave it to him. Are they like? whoever, like even him, is he happy with what happened in that fight? Is he really like, did it really go down like it was supposed to go down? Did anybody really came out on top, like saying, I beat that guy, I beat the other guy? If anything, he came out more beat up than me from that fight. So, you know, there's a open tab. You know, like it's not over. You know, I think we have to settle. I have to settle it down, and we need another fight for sure.
I like it. So,
but yeah.
Well, I was gonna say. So, what are you gonna do now for the meantime, man? I mean, like you said, there's so much uncertainty going on. I don't think we have any guarantees, man. So, what do you do? Do you rest a little bit and try to keep the body right, or do you keep training and hope? What's the idea?
I don't know. Let's see, man. In Italy, they can't leave their houses. Here, we still can't leave the houses. I'm gonna do anything in my power to train. We'll see what I can do until like I live in an apartment, man. That's the fucked up thing. Like, and I'm here by myself. If they locking me to the house, I don't know, man. It's not gonna be fun.
Wow. So you guys can't even leave the house?
No. Oh, in Italy, yeah, no, you can't. Just for if you have a very good reason, like
wow.
If you want to go to if you have to shop, and they're talking about shutting down shops on Sunday too now.
Jeez.
So only thing is shops. Everything is shutting down. Everything shut down, and they're being quarantined for the last 8-9 days, I think.
That's crazy. So are you going back over there at all? You're staying here, right?
Yeah, for now I'm staying here, But it is, man. You live in California?
No, I live in Vegas.
Yeah, California is being, I mean, it is, like, gyms are shutting down. Orange County also, like, I mean, I live in Orange County, and everything is shutting down, too. But, I mean, people are still going around and stuff, but all the businesses, like restaurant, can give you can't eat at the restaurant anymore. Just take away.
Yeah. So can you train at all? Can you do anything?
I'm gonna try for sure, but I don't know if it's legal. I don't want to put people in trouble, but yeah, I'm gonna try to hide and do something, man.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do when you come back? Do you want to rebook the same fight, or do you want? I mean, you called out Antonio Carlos Jr. too. I mean, does it matter?
Yeah, I would like that fight, honestly. This guy is fighting. I don't want to wait until he gets ready for another fight. If anything, I want to fight him as soon as this thing gets better, and they're gonna restart doing this thing, and they're gonna restart running events. I want to fight, so I'll stay ready. You know, like being in the shape that I am now, it don't take that much for me to train, and like I can go through training pretty easily, and like I actually love to train. I'm in a great shape. I can, you know, like when you're in shape, you can go through more training without being like super sore and stuff. So it's not even a big deal for me to keep training. I like it. I just take it as a time to get better, like train a lot of things, and as much as I can train, that definitely also an issue. But yeah, I mean, as much as I can train, I'll train, and I'll try to stay ready for when this whole dusty situation gets settled a little bit more.
All right, that was Marvin Vettori. I like his energy, man. He's worked up, but I like his energy. I had totally forgotten about his last fight with Andrew Sanchez, to be honest, with the eye infection delay in his fight. So he's had some weird ones lately, and you know but his breakdown of Adesanya Romero, I know he's kind of angry, but I thought a lot of that was really accurate, and I love the fact that he wants a rematch with Shoeface. I mean, that would be getting one back. And, of course, I mean, none of us know what's really going on right now, but, you know, not wanting to wait on Darren Stewart. So I like a lot of what he had to say. I know he's worked up to start out with, but I like a lot of what he had to say, so I thought it was kind of interesting. I do wonder, you know, as we're talking about kind of moving forward and trying to stay busy, I do wonder if this could impact the future of the sport, and if maybe kind of what we're seeing with this Cage Warriors show coming up this weekend, where they're hosting it behind closed doors, and you know, certainly that's what the UFC was trying to do as well. I wonder if that's what we're going to see for maybe not just the time being, but maybe honestly. Kind of the future of MMA production. I mean, the UFC obviously invested in the Apex for a reason. Yeah. I don't know if they saw a global pandemic occurring, but I mean, they see. I mean, it's already happening in wrestling, right? Like wrestling, a couple different wrestling organizations, they'll do house shows at their facility, and then they'll take big shows out on the road. I wonder if maybe like smaller, more cost-effective fight night cards and stuff like that could happen at the Apex more frequently, and maybe you only take the big shows out on the road. I mean, I don't know. Losing the gate is probably very impactful. I mean, they'd like to have those live gates, and you do grow, the popularity. Like, when people go see a live event for the first time in their backyard, then maybe they become bigger fans. So there are definitely
people don't really remember the first time they watched it on TV.
That's right. They remember the first time they were there. So I definitely see cons to not traveling around a little bit. Like, the first time you go see a UFC live event, you remember it. That sticks in your head. And so not being able to go basically use your show as a traveling marketing opportunity, that would be problematic. But man, with all that's going on right now, and who knows what kind of future changes are going to be made, doing more studio shows might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think, well, definitely the big glaring difference between at least the WWE and those wrestling ones and the actual MMA sporting is definitely involvement of like commissions and things of that sort.
Right.
The fact that they could just go into their office, their training facility and do it is definitely a big deal. Whereas at least the Apex, even if they did want to do it, they have to still get clearance. They have to. The commission has to staff something. I bet the UFC, if they were like, man, if we're able to just greenlight stuff, stuff will be going right now. So it's interesting. I mean, I could definitely see where something like that would happen, where maybe just going forward they figure out, hey, if we ever wondered if there was a point to cut some costs and maybe pull back the production. Maybe that balances out the fact that they're missing out on that gate if they did more events at the Apex. But I do think that I mean, even watching the footage of the Brazil event the other day, you could feel that they weren't using all the camera shots that they would normally do because they didn't want to show the empty crowd, you know. So even if they did start doing that, I think they would probably, the feel of the show would definitely change some. At that point, what's the point of a walkout if you have an empty crowd? Just start the fights in the ring, what I mean? Because at that point, you could probably cut the show down a little bit because you're losing, 5 minutes each fight.
Yeah, just come back from a commercial or a setup or whatever.
And the guys are in there and just go straight to a buffer interview or something, or the intros. It's going to be interesting, but maybe it is a chance to change stuff up in their end. I also thought too, I mean, that this could be a catalyst to change things for the fighters, with less events and with them having more needs. If there's ever a point for them to stand up for themselves, this would be that point. So, maybe this is one of those moments where things can change. It's kind of exciting because, you don't know how big that it could change. There could be some big changes coming. But another part is like you kind of want it just to get back to normal, especially for our industry where we work around this. So if there's no fights, there's nothing to report on. There's nothing to cover. I mean, this will definitely trickle down, and as much as it affects the fighters, I don't want it to affect our livelihoods as well. It's scary to think about it a little bit.
It is, and the next big step is this March 25th Nevada State Athletic Commission meeting. Which, I sat here a week ago and we talked about it, and I said, you know what, I think these shows are going to happen. A week ago, I said, man, I believe these shows are going to happen. I believe the commission's going to find a way to work with the UFC.
Yep.
By 48 hours later, when we went to go to that emergency meeting, and I talked about it last week on the and a half episode on patreon.com/MMA Roadshow. My opinion had completely changed. You know what I mean?
At that point too, didn't Dana come out too at that point and was like, we got to find something else.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. It was like, whoa.
This thing changed so fast. I mean, it all happened in a week, and then every day things were changing, so I don't have much hope for the March 25th meeting that the commission's just going to say, you know what, we're feeling pretty good about things.
Especially with the governor coming out and saying what he did. I mean, the commission is appointed by the governor.
Yeah.
So if the governor is going out there saying, And the governor had what do you call it, a press conference the other day and got very, very heated
Very
with
passionate
media
about it.
about just this is what is necessary to do. People are dying from this.
Because basically he said, this is what should happen. This is what you should do. This
Right.
is what you should do. And look, the reporter wasn't being wrong. He rightfully asked, like, when you say should, are they required? Like, is this legal? And the guy was like, stop trying to find loopholes.
Yeah.
The governor, was upset. And he's right. He's like, people are dying. Listen to me. Do this. And it's weird because, a week ago when we sat here and talked about it, the government hadn't made any statements. The schools were still open. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, they haven't even done anything. So now things have totally changed. Now the political climate here is a hell of a lot different. I mean, probably most of the world didn't see our governor speaking, but he literally was like slamming his hands on the little podium that he was at and was almost yelling. He was saying, listen, it's clear we're not going to have the military guard out there like they are. I think in Italy, like there's like armed police out there saying, get back in your home. We're not going to do that, but you better do this, man. You better do this.
It's crazy to think that to see Las Vegas sort of just shuttered up and things closed down. Like I said before, I never thought I would see it, happen. So if you got the governor coming out and to see that happen, it's a little bold to think that the commission's just going to come out and say, okay, yeah, business as usual, because the amount of money that the UFC and the commission brings in for Nevada pales in comparison when you talk about the taxes and the things that these casinos pay.
God.
So if they're willing to shut down the casinos for this sort of thing, it's going to be no problem at all for them to just say, UFC, go. You can have all the ideas and hopes that you want, but this is not going to happen.
Yeah, I imagine they'll probably say on March 25th, I imagine they say, if I had to guess now, and again, just a guess, I'd probably say they say, let's shut it indefinitely, and we'll revisit in 30 days at our next meeting.
Yep. Which is interesting. I mean, if they say indefinitely, then I think that means they would have to go immediately go to Canelo's people and all the other big fights and say, cancel it right now.
Yep.
So I wonder if they can find a way to word it to where it's a temporary. We're not issuing any new things. There's a 30-day hold on other ones. There's a pending status, whatever. So we're not going to just outright cancel everything. But I don't know. I mean, you think if they would, because you figure maybe even if things that are months and months away, that maybe by starting the process, maybe it helps money flow somewhere. So
That's
I wonder
true.
if they're going to find some way.
Yeah,
to,
because then people start making plans and
Right.
they, start booking some flights, start booking some hotels.
Yeah, because they don't want to. I mean, I guess they're with no end in sight. I mean, they don't want to, be incorrect and stop worrying too early. But also, I mean, the stuff takes months and months to get going. It'd be hard for them if they shoot themselves in the foot 6 months out, and by doing something to say indefinitely that it automatically cancels things 6 months out or whatever. That to start the whole process again would push them back even further.
Well, they don't want to be irresponsible, but on the other hand, like it's not like you just flip a switch and now all of a sudden the hotels are full again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything's good to go. No, you got to have time to plan and to build events and to build trust with the community that it's okay to fly back here. It's okay to come celebrate and hang out.
Because what is it? Didn't MGM say they would start accepting reservations like in April 20 something? They would start looking at taking reservations for the future at that point. Not, I don't think it was like April 25th. We're ready to take you. You can come and stay.
Right.
I think that's when they were like, all right, we'll start humoring the idea and start working towards it or whatever. But it's just bizarre because I mean, to think that they were just gonna clean the slate, I just don't see that happening. Just cleaning the slate for the rest of the year, just for the fact of people will, because they want them to come back to Vegas. And if they pretty much say, don't plan on coming to Vegas, we're not sure when we're going to come back up, they'll find somewhere else for it. And I don't think Nevada wants to do that particular thing.
No, we can't. We can't.
It's just so crazy.
It's crazy times, man. It is unlike anything we've ever seen.
And we're already seeing layoffs. And I talked with you about this well. Agent H was telling me she works for a law firm. They were already laying off people. Her brother works at a food distribution place. They were laying off people. So layoffs, it's not just people that work in the casinos, not just people that are servers and other stuff. businesses, the trickle-down effect of what this is causing. I can only imagine what it's like in even smaller communities than this, the effect of what this is happening.
No, the ripple effect's going to be massive.
Unreal. And you hear of it happening literally all across the world. Outside of a world war or something, I can't think ever something that has affected the whole world in this way. That, not that this is a moment to, oh man, remember that great time we all went through the whole world, we were all one, but this is the kind of thing that it's crazy to think that in my lifetime I'm seeing something like that that's affecting everybody in
similar ways.
And you hope at the end it brings us together as human beings. We can all look back and say, remember, we got through this. If we can get through this, we can get through anything.
Yep.
But it's crazy, man. It is definitely one of those moments, just like where before we had talked about 9/11 and how every American remembers where they were. They remember what they were doing when that happened, but that just affected us. But this is going to be one of those moments where people are going to remember that point in their life when the coronavirus hit.
That's crazy, man. For everybody on the planet.
Everybody on the planet.
All right. Well, listen. As we said, we can't not talk about this stuff, but we definitely don't want it to be the focus of everything. There is an MMA event happening this weekend. Thankfully, knock on wood. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared it's gonna get pulled at the last minute. But Cage Warriors 113. I want to watch some live MMA. I'm pumped about it. We usually don't talk too much about shows that are happening on Friday, especially Friday in Europe, because we know that's when most people listen. But man, how can you not talk about the one show that's happening? So I reached out to our man Simon Head and talked to him about just what the situation is over there, and got a full event preview to get you hopefully primed for some live fights. Knock on wood. Nothing happens. Cage Warriors 113. Here is my conversation with Simon Head from earlier today. All right, always a pleasure to connect with our man over in the UK, Simon Head. And Simon, I'm trying not to talk about coronavirus as much as is necessary, but I guess the things that this is doing to impact our community is impossible to avoid. So how is the homeschooling going? The self-quarantining, and it seems like it's a little bit of chaos for all of us, right? Kind of changing up the routine.
Yeah, the new normal we're still getting used to. It's been a bit mad. I mean, we actually took our oldest daughter Alicia, who's 8, out of school a few days before everything started to shut down, and we sort of were going to self-isolate for a week, which was the advice at the time. And then about 3 days in, the government here turned around and said, yeah, you got to self-isolate for 14 days now. So we're kind of pot committed at this point. But thankfully the fridge is full. We've got a good stock of food. We've had some friends drop some stuff around as well. So it's been all right. It's been all right. And the one benefit to this, if there is a benefit to this, or the one silver lining, I suppose, is the fact that I work from home anyway.
Right.
So it hasn't been an enormous upheaval with regards to me not being able to commute to my place of work.
Right.
I'm working from home. I just have to do it in a slightly rowdier atmosphere than usual. But hey, this is a rowdy sport we deal with, so it's not too bad. But yeah, no, I've actually been off today. I'm building a coronavirus Spotify playlist, John. Right now, we've got I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany. Can't Touch This by MC Hammer. Give Me Shelter by the Rolling Stones. It's all coming together nicely. I'll have to share that.
Oh, you're ridiculous, dude. You're ridiculous. Well, that's a good place to use your fantastic ability to master puns. So that is awesome. Well, talk to me about this Cage Warriors card, man. I mean, how is this thing happening, I guess? That's my first question. I mean, we saw what the UFC did and how, they tried like hell to get it done and, ultimately had to back away from it. But how is this card happening? I know it had to move to Manchester, so it had some hurdles. But, I mean, are there no legal, roadblocks to this thing happening, or is there a possibility this thing gets pulled at the last minute? Because I'll be honest, that's what I'm scared about. I'm a little worried about getting too excited to actually watch some MMA and then have it pulled from us at the last minute.
Well, I mean, there's always that possibility. The way this is a very fluid situation in regards to government advice and all the rest of it. But it seems to me that I hesitate to use the word settle down, but things have slightly settled down. There's been some more definitive advice from the government here in the UK. They're advising people that they shouldn't congregate in large groups. They're still not telling people that they're stopping it from happening. So we've had this weird scene from like on the news of revelers in Liverpool celebrating Paddy's Day like it's any other Paddy's Day. It's been which is kind of scary and mad. But in the main, everyone it's just self-isolation or social distancing and all the rest of it. And I think with the Cage Warriors thing, I mean, I think initially they probably thought that they were ideally placed to keep something going. Everybody who's on the card, or most of the people who are on the card, were already local, can easily get to London. And I think they probably saw it as an opportunity to sort of almost be a little sort of shining light of positivity, give some people something to look forward to. And also, I think from a promotional standpoint, I know like Dana's been getting absolutely hammered on social media and in the media as well for ploughing forward as best he can to try and put all these shows on. And of course, there is the whole social responsibility side of it. We need to make sure that everybody is safe. We need to make sure that we all do our bit to try and make sure that the spread of this thing is kept to an absolute minimum. Also from a promotional standpoint, you take what Graham Boylan's doing here. I think he wants to just give these guys a payday as well as putting on an event. So, you know, especially at this level, these aren't multi-millionaire fighters who are competing for you know at the very, very highest level of the sport. These are guys who want to get there. They've had to dedicate the same amount of training time as any other professional fighter has, and it looked as if they were gonna miss out. I was chatting to Paddy Pimblett the other day, and he hasn't fought in 18 months. And a lot of it is not through his own fault. He's had, I think he's had 4 fights fall through over the space of the last 18 months, and the last fight he had was a loss. So he's absolutely desperate to get back. This is worth more to him than just a fight. So you know, there are people who need the money to pay their families. There are people who, you know, they just want to keep their career going. And you know, and in terms of the Cage Warriors show, I also think that it's almost become, I hesitate to use the whole Captain Ahab situation, but like Graham Boylan is absolutely not backing down from this whole thing. It's the old Captain Quint and all the rest of it, you know, and he is steadfastly refusing to sort of to be beaten by this. And there's a certain amount of stubbornness involved in there, I'm sure. But he's trying to put this show on. He's rejigged the card I don't know how many times. Even before the Corona thing kicked in, he had fights fall through and he's rebooked them. The title fight on the card actually only came together about a week ago. Mason Jones and Joe McColgan were both booked to fight other opponents in non-title fights. And both of their opponents, through different reasons, weren't able to make the card. Now all of a sudden they're fighting for a title. And it's a huge opportunity for the pair of them. So, but yeah, it's all a bit weird. And then obviously this week, everything was good to go. They were going to hold it as a regular show. Then circumstances dictated that they moved it behind closed doors. Because all the fighters pretty much were here, they weren't in a position where they felt the need to cancel the show like the UFC has, or postpone the show rather, because most of the people they need are already sort of in the vicinity. So they could still run a behind closed doors show. Then I think it was Tuesday, AEG, who own the O2 Arena and operate the O2 Arena, declared that they were closing the O2 facility down, and that includes the Indigo, which is the smaller venue within the O2. And within an hour, Boylan had been on the phone to the venue of his previous Cage Warriors show, the BEC Arena in Manchester, and had managed to secure that for Friday night. So I guess there wasn't anything else on. So from an availability standpoint, there wasn't a problem. So it's just, you know, are they happy to run something under certain guidelines and restrictions? And yeah, it seems like it's going ahead. So only another government decree that outright banned all public events. But it's not a public event now. This is, you know, this is not a public event. This is effectively a private event, you know, I think they're trying to operate it as responsibly as they can. I know they had the weigh-ins today.
Yeah.
And
well, that's,
you know, that was held under different circumstances as well.
Yes, I want to talk about that because, and I do want to talk about the fights themselves in a minute, but I mean, obviously there is kind of bigger issues at play. I mean, I think there's definitely been some similarities between the way Graham Boylan has been handling this Cage Warriors card and the way Dana White was trying to handle the UFC events, at least, before finally, having to give in and cancel it. And I think almost in some ways, they do take it as a little bit of a personal challenge almost. Like it almost becomes like, you're not going to stop me. You're not going to tell me I can't do this. But there is a big bright side as well. Like you said, getting these fighters paid. I mean, everybody I see, the media and social media as well going crazy like, hey, what about these fighters? You got to pay them. And, that's not going to happen. I mean, I hate to say it. It would be nice, but it's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if they fight. And I do feel like, I understand the criticism and I understand the concern, but I do feel like there's something to be said for finding a way to do it because, as you said, we want to get these fighters paid. And here's the other thing. I mean, when we get done with this, 2 weeks or this 30 days or whatever it is, potentially longer, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they think this 30 days is just a start. At least that's what we're doing over here in the States, in Nevada. It's not like the coronavirus is just going to be gone at that point. I mean, it sounds like we're still a year away from having a vaccine for it. And, as you mentioned, you said it off the top, the new normal. I mean, there's going to be changes, I think, to society in a lot of ways and definitely in sport. And I feel like there's something to be said for trying to find a way to operate in these times, yeah, I want the weigh-ins were today, and as you said, they did it in a different way, and maybe you can touch on that. But I don't know, man. I feel like the criticism that's being levied on both the UFC and Cage Warriors to a smaller degree, I understand it, but I think there's something to be said for them trying to soldier on because just self-isolating, self-quarantine, great. But guess what? At the end of 30 days, if we haven't made changes in policies, if we haven't figured out how to safely compete and do things, then we have to self-quarantine for a year, And I don't know. I kind of applaud them for saying, hey, here's what we did at the weigh-ins. Here's what we're going to do at the fights. Here's how we're going to change things moving forward. Because otherwise, we never get to move forward. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm, naive sometimes about things, but I tend to see positives in them trying to do things.
Yeah, I mean the way I see this, obviously you and I, and I'm sure loads of people listening to this have families, right? And we've got kids and we've got older family members as well. So looking after the entire the full gamut of this, it's not just about how we as individuals are doing. It's about the people we come into contact with, and there are people who are more vulnerable than others. And if you're talking about sport and the potential for contracting something, catching something from another person, MMA is, you could argue, right at the top of the list because of the sheer amount of close proximity contact that you get in the sport, as opposed to almost any other sport you could think of. Maybe only wrestling, but probably not even wrestling, because at least they are more clothed, if you like, than they are in mixed martial arts. But I mean, passing, it's all from breathe there, isn't it? And I mean, it's close proximity stuff. So I think without the ability to test the fighters for not just for symptoms, but for the actual virus. I know Cage Warriors are testing for symptoms, which is fine. But you can be asymptomatic for about 5 days before you realise you've got this thing. So that's the grey area. That's where it gets a bit tricky. But if the fighters can be tested, and that the fighters are going in there and they're both clear and everything's okay with them, and the people who they're coming into contact with are also tested, and the number of people involved in producing the show is stripped right down to a minimum, then it becomes a little bit more controllable. But you've still got the process involved in testing all these people, and I know just testing for the thing takes about a week to get your results back, I think. So it's, depending on whereabouts in the world you are. So it's tricky, and of all sports, I would say MMA probably has it harder than most. So the fact that this is going ahead is slightly surprising. Don't get me wrong. I'm very excited for the fact that we're going to see some live fights on Friday night. But I wouldn't want that to be to the detriment of something further down the line. You know what I mean? Sure. So I think we all need to be a little bit responsible about it and think about it really carefully when it comes to opening up the schedule again in 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is, because there's not just going to be a wake up in the morning and everything's hunky dory again. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a long time before we have crowds. I guess I think about the positives of MMA, like the fact that it can be, you don't need a lot of people to do it. So I think we can keep it to small gatherings, behind closed doors. As you said, they made changes to the weigh-ins. My understanding is they kind of staggered the weigh-ins so that not everybody was in the room at the same time. They limited it to just one corner. I guess the thing I see that's positive is that it's not like sport where you compete every night or every week or like if you look at soccer or football, obviously as it would be called everywhere else in the world, once a week or twice a week depending on what kind of tournament structure you're in at that time. Baseball, basketball here in the States, multiple times a week. Here, you're competing once every 3 months if you're lucky. So it does seem like at worst, again, maybe I'm being naive here, but at worst, maybe you could compete and then in a small area and then go self-quarantine for 2 weeks after that, right? Because as you said, I don't think many people are worried about the athletes competing. They're so fit. It seems that this is really affecting people that are older or have underlying respiratory conditions, which doesn't define the mixed martial arts competitors at all. So I just wonder if hopefully our sport is set up in a way that maybe we can get back up and running a little bit quicker than some of these other leagues do. So anyway, enough of that. You know what? I'm excited. There's MMA too. I did notice one thing, and I don't know if this is the norm, but there are pretty freely available betting lines for every single fight on this card. So with it being the only live sport on the planet pretty much right now, if you're into that thing, you might want to tune in because you can actually bet on everything. But I wanted to ask you first, let's talk about the UFC fight, if you will. Bartosz Fabinski and Darren Stewart are going at it. Of course, Darren Stewart was supposed to face Marvin Vettori. Bartosz Fabinski had Shavkat Rakhmonov. They end up putting this thing together on a week's notice. I got to think Stewart is the favorite here. What do you think about the matchup? Is this does one guy favor another over such a fight arranged on such short time? Does that change anything, or do you feel like this is Darren Stewart's fight to lose? Give me your thoughts on it.
Well, I assume they were both in the country anyway, and that Bartosz hasn't had to change any weird travel plans. Literally they've had to just go 220 miles up the road in an Uber or something just to get to Manchester for fight night. So I don't see there being a major issue on that front. Darren's on home soil here. He's fought for Cage Warriors before. He's a former Cage Warriors guy as well. So he's going to be very familiar with the surroundings. He's going to be very familiar with the whole, the setup in terms of, the people around the cage and, the feel of being in that smaller cage. It'll be a slightly smaller cage, I think, the Cage Warriors cage. Bartosz Fabinski is one of those guys. He's just big, strong, and tough. I think Darren Stewart, if he wants to get himself a highlight reel knockout, this could be the sort of fight where he could get it, because I think Bartosz is just going to come straight at him. Stewart's improving his wrestling. He's noticeably improved his wrestling over his last couple of fights. But his bread and butter is his striking, and he's got really good hands. So, I would expect him to be really keen to put on a show this weekend. As I say, fighting for his former promoter. I think Graham Bullen might be his manager actually.
Oh wow!
I think Graham might be his manager. So that's probably one reason why they managed to get him on the card so easily.
Yeah.
I would imagine that Darren would be the betting favourite. I haven't seen the odds going into this. They both made weight with ease. Like I don't know whether I'm looking at some of these weights and I'm wondering whether the scales would dial back a pound or two.
Look, I saw the same thing. I haven't seen the video, but just for the record, yeah, Darren Stewart came in at 182.9. Fabinski was 181.5, and it kind of goes down. The lightweight title fight, Mason Jones was 151.9. Joe McColgan was 153.2. Patty Pimblett was 152.5. Decky Dalton was 153.2. I don't know, man. I don't know if maybe somebody was worried about social distancing themselves from the scale and they couldn't read it properly, or what was going on, because it did seem like maybe it was dialed back just a pound or two.
It's the same for everybody, and there's no egregious differences in weight there, which is good.
Yeah.
So, if they were using some shonky kitchen scale or bathroom scale rather than the usual thing, I don't know, but it looks as if everybody, well, certainly everybody made weight officially. Everybody is within, the appropriate poundage of each other. There's certainly no obvious ones where someone's come in sort of a pound over and someone's like 5 or 6 pounds under. So everything looks good from that point of view. But yeah, everyone's on weight. We haven't lost any more fights. We did lose some in the week.
I was going to say that would be unacceptable. Talk to me about Mason Jones. As you said, the vacant lightweight title there. He is the biggest favorite on the card that I've been able to see. Undefeated Welshman, wants to join that kind of growing rank of the Welsh in the UFC. But like I said, undefeated, fighting for the title. We know that a Cage Warriors title is a good path to the UFC. Tell me about Mason Jones. Is he UFC ready?
I think if he can get himself a good win here, I think there's a strong argument that he is. I mean, he's still pretty young. He's competed for Cage Warriors throughout his entire career, and he's been in there with some solid opposition. He hasn't fought anyone with what you would call like a really strong name. I think McColgan is a very respected guy over here, and someone who's always on the fringes of being sort of championship potential. So a good strong win over him will certainly put him in the mix. He's very well rounded. He's Mason. He's got a very strong judo base. He used to compete in judo to a high level when he was younger. He's now transitioned to mixed martial arts. He's got good hands. I don't know if you saw any of the pad work that was being shared via the Cage Warriors account this week. He's got some nifty spinning stuff in the bank if he needs it. So I'm looking forward to seeing him get in there. He's quite happy to go the distance. He actually told me, I spoke to him this week, and he's absolutely buzzing for this fight. He was already preparing for 5 rounds, even though the fight he was originally due to have against Danilo Belluardo was going to be a 3-rounder. He's already started training for 3 rounds because he firmly believed that once he got past Belluardo, he was going to fight for the title in Cardiff in June when Cage Warriors were due to go there. So as far as he was concerned, this has just come one event early for him. And this fight camp that he's just had was basically to prepare him for training for 5 rounds. So he's done a 5-round fight camp for this. So 5 rounds should be no problem for him. Joe McColgan, he was in one of the best fights of the year last year. I think it was Cage Warriors Fight of the Year. It was a draw back at where are we? I can't remember which event it was. Cage Warriors Unplugged 2. I was there. Mehdi Ben Lakhdar, and they fought to a draw, and it was an absolute cracker of a fight. You'll be able to find that on Fight Pass. That Cage Warriors Unplugged 2 event, well worth a watch. And he fought to a majority draw, and he's since gone back and won since then. I think Mason Jones is the justified favourite for this, and I think if he can get himself a stoppage within the first 3 rounds, I would imagine he'd have a strong case to call for a shot in the UFC. Failing that, another strong title defence against a big name, maybe a Paddy Pimblett, for example. If Paddy gets a win this weekend, Mason gets a win this weekend, it could be Mason Jones, Paddy Pimblett. And I think whoever won that would certainly be in a great spot to get themselves a call-up for the UFC later in the year. Assuming all goes back to normal, of course.
Yeah, well, we're going to operate under those assumptions. Let's get the fingers crossed, man. Knock on wood. Talk to me about Paddy Pimblett, man. As you said, a long layoffs, not necessarily of his own doing. I mean, this is a guy that was all the rage, right? I mean, this was kind of the Cage Warriors poster boy for a little bit, and I think everybody was excited about him making his way to the UFC, and that hasn't happened. So, I mean, are people over there still high on Paddy Pimblett and think he's a talent, or is the opinion kind of changing on him?
I think things have changed in regard to his career trajectory's taken a little bit of a different turn. He was a featherweight and was doing very well at featherweight. Won the title, was on a great run of form, and then got well and truly dominated by Nad Narimani, who's now in the UFC, of course. That was back in 2017, and it was almost a bit of a wake up call. I think Narimani really dominated that fight from start to finish, got a unanimous decision win, and it was sort of back to the drawing board really after that. And what's happened since then is Paddy, who is quite a tall, rangy featherweight, I think he probably found it quite hard to do the weight cut and make it to 145, moved up to lightweight, which I think is definitely better for him, but then he picked up a win on his lightweight debut, then fought Soren back for the lightweight belt, and was beaten again. But that was a great fight. That was a back and forth fight. He could easily have won that fight by submission. He had Soren back in a rear naked choke, and to this day I don't know how Soren got through that. But then he turned around and managed to win the fight by decision. And that was the last time we saw Paddy Pimblett inside the cage. That was September the 1st, 2018. And after losing a fight that probably he thought he was going to win, he's had 18 months of absolute frustration and disappointment and God knows what else. He was due to face Donovan Desmay. That fell through. Joe Giannetti, former tough competitor, stepped in, failed to make weight, missed by quite a bit, and there was an awful lot of bad feeling around that. Paddy is adamant that Joe missed weight deliberately and didn't really make any attempt to hit weight, and said he was eating food as soon as he got off the scale. So there's still a lot of bad blood between those two over that. So that fight, which was due to happen at the end of last year, that didn't happen. So that was one event he's missed out on, but obviously two opponents. Then this time round, he's supposed to face Donovan Desmay again, Belgian contender, and Desmay pulled out. David Martinez from Italy was then drafted in. Corona meant that he couldn't get over from Italy to the UK. There was a complete shutdown in Italy, who are suffering with it a lot worse than most of the rest of the world at the moment. So he couldn't get anywhere, so he was off the card. So Cage Warriors matchmaker Ian Dean put the phones out, and Decky Dalton he fights out of Northern Ireland. He's been in and around the UK and Irish scene for years, and he's a solid operator. And he actually fought weekend before last in Ireland and won. And said, yeah, I'll take the fight on a week's notice. So he's stepping in, and he's going to fight Paddy now. But for Paddy, he just wants to get in there and fight. He's absolutely desperate to get in there and fight. He's had 18 months of not being able to earn a fighter's pay packet, 18 months of not being able to bounce back into the win column, 18 months of being just frustrated at being out of the loop, while Cage Warriors is still rolling on and putting on good shows. Paddy's been on the sidelines and not been able to get himself in there. So and then when all of the uncertainty hit this week, he was just like, here we go again. I think the first question I asked him was, do you feel like you're jinxed or anything? Because it seems like you're destined to not fight, right? And he was like, and his answer was something like, "Effing tell me about it," or something like that. So he's very grateful for Decky Dalton stepping in on such short notice. He actually thinks that Dalton will come in pretty good shape, given that he's just fought. I think Dalton won in the first round by submission, so he shouldn't be too badly damaged, and he should be in pretty good nick. Obviously, Paddy's had his full fight camp, but Pimblett is absolutely desperate to put on a show. I said to him, you normally feed off the crowd at these events. You bring the party, you bring the atmosphere, and he bounces down the walkway to basement jacks every time he fights. And I said, you still going to do this? Because there's going to be no one there. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm doing it.
Oh, that'll be a sight.
So he's still going to do it. He said, I didn't include this bit in the interview feature that went on the Junkie website, but he was telling me about the song, and he said, whenever that song comes on, his heart rate goes up. He starts working harder when he's in the gym. And he wears a heart rate monitor when he works out, and he goes back and looks at it, and he said, crikey, that's when the old Basement Jack song comes on. And
that's funny.
But yeah, no, he's absolutely desperate to get back, and he's still more than capable of earning himself a place in the UFC. The one thing he doesn't have, and it's the worst thing to be missing for a fighter, is momentum. Mm-hmm. He has none whatsoever. He just wants to get the car started again and get moving.
Yeah, no question about it, man. It's going to be a big moment for him. I should say, by the way, you've got a couple real nice previews up on MMA Junkie, so if anybody wants a little bit of written word to go along with this, since we're all focused on one fight card in particular, go check that out at MMA Junkie. What anything else? I mean, I know, as you said, man, this card was put together multiple times over, man, and kudos to the team there for getting it done and giving us some MMA to watch. Nobody stands out to me on the prelims as any kind of blue chip prospect that that I feel like everybody can't miss out on right now. But am I overlooking any names, or are there any just good stories? I mean, things that personalities, anything on the prelims, or whether it be that David Bear, Nathan Jones fight. I mean, what else can we try to get excited about, or at least tune into with some attention?
Well, you just mentioned the fight I was gonna bring up actually. Nathan Jones got one of the better nicknames in UK MMA, Mr. Bag and Tag, he calls himself, and he was the BAMA champion for a while, and he's sort of hit hard times, lost a couple of fights, joined Cage Warriors, challenged for the title, lost. This is at 170, but he's since bounced back. He's got 2 really good wins. He beat Brad Wheeler, who, I'm just trying to give you sort of an example. Brad Wheeler is probably like the Diego Sanchez of Cage Warriors. He's the sort of the omnipresent guy who will get in there and have an absolute tear up with anybody. And Nathan Jones went in there and beat him. And he's gone in there and he's picked up another win since then with a quick fire submission. On his day, he's very, very good, and he's probably in the veteran stage of his career right now. The welterweight title right now is vacant. So with Ross Houston departing, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens next in the welterweight division. And a good win for Nathan Jones would certainly put him in there. And yeah, I mean the rest of the card, I think just looking down, where are we? Right, let's have a look. Lewis Monarch versus Kingsley Crawford could be an entertaining one. Both of those guys always bring the action to very well. I mean, Kingsley Crawford feels like he's been around for ages, but he's only got 6 fights on his record. It feels like I've been watching him for ages. But him and Lewis Monarch, that should be a decent one. Darren O'Gorman is a regular in Cage Warriors, as is Conor Hignett. That should be a decent one as well. And Adam Amrasinger further down the card at flyweight. He's one of those who he gives sort of glimpses of real sort of excellence, and then he's dropped a couple of losses. But he's someone who, if he can string a few wins together, people might start getting excited about him. I like the look of him at 125 pounds. But as you say, most of these guys, they're really looking to sort of make their name and build their way up. It's the guys at the sharp end of the card, really. The Paddy Pimblett, Decky Dalton fight. Obviously, you got the championship fight with Mason Jones and Joe McColgan, and then you got the UFC fight between Darren Stewart and Bartosz Fabinski at the top of the card. Here's a question: what gloves are they going to wear?
I'm kind of curious about that as well. I was going to try to reach out today. Like, I mean, it would be kind of cool if they wore the UFC gear if it's a UFC fight. And do we count this as a UFC fight on their records moving forward? I mean, it's not a UFC fight, right? It's a Cage Warriors fight. I mean, I guess if they put the UFC gloves on, I mean, maybe that helps. But at the end of the day, this is a Cage Warriors fight.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's been like, even on the Cage Warriors press releases and stuff, it's being billed as a UFC fight. So I don't know how it works, whether they're just on loan to Cage Warriors for an evening, or whether this is a UFC fight. It just happens to be held on a Cage Warriors card.
This is going to screw up every database in forever, dude. You know what I mean? Because like, we're going to have to remember these two guys for as long as they fight when we're putting their records together. Like, I mean, listen, I know that's some severe like first world problem shit to be talking about, but I mean, like, we're always going to have to remember that they have that one extra, win or loss on their record.
It's going to be the ultimate pub quiz question, isn't it? The old bar trivia. So, which two fighters competed in a UFC fight that wasn't on a UFC card?
That's so funny. It is. That'll be a great trivia question. Cool. All right, man. Well, we usually don't spend this much time on Cage Warriors, but come on, man. It's the only live MMA we got, so I felt like it deserved a little bit of a deep dive. And listen, I have committed to the fine supporters at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow to bring them a and a half episode every time there's a major card. And with it being the only card, I think it qualifies as a major card. So if you're up for it, maybe I touch base with you again after the fight and we talk about what we saw.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We're gonna, we've got to do some post-fight stuff as well.
Yes, sir, brother. All right, man. Well, always a pleasure. And hey, at least we get to watch some live MMA.
Damn right.
All right, as always, good stuff from our man Simon Head. Great preview from him. And, like we touched on a little bit, I do think that MMA is in a position to get back to action quicker than other sports are, man. Just the way our system is set up, we're going to have to make some changes. But I do think, as we talked about earlier, I behind closed doors probably for a while, yeah, no question about it. But fingers crossed, man. I think we're in a position to get back operationally faster than most sports are. So, listen, by the way, I should say, if you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. If you're listening on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're hearing, make sure you take a second and log in, and please be subscribed to us, of course. And if you can take a second to rate us, maybe even leave us a review, that would be fantastic. All that stuff helps us grow the show. But if you really want to take things to the next level, those are the people we really, really appreciate. Taking it over to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Sign up there for as little as $3 a month. You can get all of the content that we have over there, including exclusive and a half episodes that we're doing after every major show. Granted, there are less major shows as of right now, but I am going to promise to find a way to still get some content going over there. We will have an and a half after Cage Warriors because, as we said, if it's the only show, it's a major show.
Yeah, that's
so we'll definitely have one there. And like I said, I've got some ideas for some other things that we're going to do. So even though we don't have big events on the schedule right now, don't hesitate to sign up. As I said, for just as little as $3 a month, you get all of our content over there. There's also a couple of other levels you can sign up as well for $5 a month. We'll make sure and give you an open line to us. Any questions that you have, we'll make sure and address it on the episode. And, of course, the $10 a month,
you get a handy. Not really.
Those are the stars. Those are the ones we say at that point. You're basically the boss. You tell us what to do. Once we're actually back out on the road and talking to fighters, or even little phoners. If you got questions that you want to ask somebody over the phone, we'll make sure we do that. So basically, we're at your beck and call at that. But look, for those of us that continue to sign up, we appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a couple new members, and he's probably gonna be upset because we're going to butcher it, but we were trying to figure out how we best said it. But I'm going with Evan.
Evan, I like it. It's an interesting spell.
It's Eyvind. Maybe
it's Evan. I
Eyvind?
liked it. Or Ivan. I don't know. It's Evan or Ivan. Either way,
welcome to the family.
You, sir.
Thank you, sir. And then also South Cox.
Big shout out to South Cox.
Big shot. Oh, big South Cox. another big fan. We're big fan of Cox himself.
Oh man,
that's another stage name sounding person. Like
South
we had,
Cox.
like our
Lou Velvet's
he probably
the man.
hangs out with Lou Velvet.
South Cox hangs out with Lou Velvet.
South Cox, man. They just be tearing up the nightclubs. Just not in Vegas because they're all closed down right now. But thank you all for coming on board, and thank you for that for all of you that have been on there for a while.
We definitely do appreciate it. Trying to do better over there, and we're definitely building a community over there. And yeah, we've had it for a while, but we really haven't spent a lot of time on it. We're focusing on it now. And
Evan
really
and South, John apologized. He hasn't sent you a message yet. He normally hits every bit, but
those will be coming.
Stuff's been a little bit crazy.
It's been a little hectic this week. I'll definitely be reaching out to both of you.
You will still get your little what's up.
Listen, talk about the schedule. It does sound like UFC 249. I mean, the UFC is definitely not happening in Brooklyn. I mean, that was clear that wasn't going to happen. But they're still trying to make it happen right now. Sounds like maybe Dubai. I mean, that seems to be the prevailing rumor behind the scenes. Nothing decided as of yet, I've been told. But, of course, they definitely have the support of the governments over there with the UAE. I think that sounds like a real possibility. But I thought it'd be interesting to reach out to somebody that was on UFC 249 and kind of find out how they were dealing with things, because everything's up in the air, but they can't stop preparing for anything. So I reached out to Sijara Eubanks and talked to her about what it's like right now, preparing but not being sure. And it was funny. It was a little bit hectic. We were trying to hook up for a little bit. We kept missing. She was actually in the middle of trying to get she was at the eye doctor. So she was trying to see a doctor, and she kept getting delayed. So we kept missing each other for a little bit, which I found interesting that she was at the eye doctor, because this was this week when everything's kind of shutting down. So I thought I was even happier that I was getting to talk to her, because I wanted to find out what the hell she was doing there. So after we missed each other a couple times, here's what Sijara had to say.
Hello.
Hey, Sijara.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I do apologize for the delay. I hate being late for stuff.
No worries. Sounded like it was kind of out of your control anyway.
It kind of was, but as is everything right now. So.
Fair point there. Fair point. So, were you getting medicals done? Is that what you're doing?
Heck yeah, I'm getting medicals done, and they were like, "Come on, get them done now." So I was like, "All right, must be something good if I got to get my eyes examined." So.
That's great. I was going to ask, was there? I mean, are you trying to like cram it all in now? Because normally you'd probably do it a little closer, right? Where you're just trying to cram it all in case stuff gets worse, basically.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. I usually don't do any of my medicals till like a week out, and with everything going on and rumors that this fight's going to be out the country, maybe. I was like, come on, let's get these medicals out the way, and it's an eye doctor too, so they're closing left and right. So I went to like 3 different eye doctors today if I could find somebody who could take me.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. So I guess let me ask you there then. It's like you said, it's just uncertain times, man. So how are you holding up right now, just kind of not knowing what's going on?
Holding up good. Honestly, it's been a little bit of motivation, a little bit, like everything's shutting down, and just to know that the UFC and Dana White and Khabib are still trying to make this fight happen is keeping me motivated. Fighters are used to kind of things not going their way, I think. I think it's part of the game to sort of roll with the punches. So I think I'm a little equipped. We're all kind of a little equipped for things to not go exactly as planned. So it's nothing else to do but train as often as possible and keep waiting to see and hear where we're going to be at.
That's funny. I was going to ask you about training. So you said train as much as possible. I mean, are you backing off at all, or are you just keeping it normal flow? What's the plan?
Normal flow. They closed us. So the only day that got thrown off was yesterday because they closed the gym on Monday night. So I was at the gym like as late as possible until literally I was like, all right. There was a curfew in Jersey for 8 p.m.
Oh wow!
I stayed in the gym till like 7:45. So, and then on Tuesday it was just all the kind of gyms were kind of nervous about opening up. So we just started to put together some private sessions and just keeping the training with as few people as possible. So we're back on track today. Just still getting my twice a day, so I can't pull back at all. We still got 4 weeks of camp, so got to keep it going.
I dig it. You said you're as few people as possible. That obviously makes sense. Are you taking any other special cares or concerns? I mean, is everybody, taking like different precautions or just washing their hands more? Or what's the general consensus there among everybody?
I'm cracking up because I felt like I washed my hands quite a bit before, but I guess no. Honestly, I'm just rolling, man. That's always how I've been when it comes to this kind of thing. Is I like to think I'm invincible, so. Yeah, I just keep drinking my water, keep sweating, and honestly, not much has changed. My mom keeps fussing at me because I won't wear a mask. I just refuse. I started to wear a mask into the eye doctor today, and I was like, nah, bro. I think it's kind of, when it comes to this kind of thing, like obviously any sickness or any virus or whatever you have to be careful of. But I'm a big believer in like the mindset and the mentality and placebo effect. So I was like, I just won't believe it. And so if I believe I'm invincible, then here we go.
I dig it.
Keep rolling like that.
Well, let's talk about the fighting. I mean, obviously all this stuff is distracting, but, your last fight, I know not the result you wanted. Aspen Ladd is one thing. Betch Correia is, not quite as top of a contender. So I'm just curious what lessons you took out of there? I mean, what could you take out of there that you could build on?
The biggest thing I built off of that Betch Correia fight is like when I'm fighting at my best, when I'm the best Sarge I can be, like the fights are exciting. Like all 15 minutes of the Aspen Ladd fight was exciting in my opinion. And when it came to the Betch Correia fight, I felt like I bought it the first 5 minutes, and then like I really can't figure out exactly what happened in my mind throughout the rest of the fight. But I just wasn't bringing it anymore. I just wasn't bringing the pressure. I just wasn't firing back like I know I can. And so that was just the biggest thing is staying aggressive and staying true to myself for the entire 15 to 25 minutes that I'm going to be in the cage. So a big focus went into not just my overall cardio, but specifically my grappling and wrestling cardio as well, because I want to be able to bring like that high level, exciting fight from bell to bell. And I just don't think I did that with Betch. And so we're going to make sure we fix that coming into April 18th.
Yeah, no question. You got matched up with Sarah Morris. She's kind of had some ups and downs too, right? She's had some good results and she's had some setbacks. So what'd you think? I mean, did you know much about her? Had you watched her fights? What'd you think of the matchup?
Yeah, I've heard about her. I've seen her on The Ultimate Fighter. I thought the matchup was great. I'm not picky about my matchups anyway. Usually whoever they give me, I'm like, sure. I don't. I know I put the trust in Ali and my cornerman as far as who they think is best for me. So as soon as they said Sarah, sure, I didn't have to look her up. I'd heard her name, and I said yes to fight. So that's just kind of what happened. I looked her up a little bit. I do a little bit of film study. I'm not the greatest film study person. Mark is the main guy. He does all of the intensive film study for me. I kind of like to just work on where I think I can improve the best. And then he sort of lets me know what combinations he think are going to work the best, and that's how we roll.
What do you feel like? It seems like there's just some really like people are moving there now, man. It seems like it's a good place to be. What's the vibe like out there?
It's hard work, and that's what it is. It's hard work, and it's a team environment, and I think that's kind of what's different. MMA is a very individualized sport, but what I love about being out here in Jersey is it's very team-oriented. You see guys like, you see, especially like, how the guys are. If one guy's got to fight, another guy doesn't, everybody comes to spar. Everybody comes to help each other out. Iron sharpens iron. And then you're surrounded by just some hard-nosed, like, humble guys, like Frankie Edgar, Eddie Alvarez. You got some of the Russians coming in now, and those guys work hard as hell. They don't speak much, but they know how to work hard. So it's just, and then, of course, all the ladies. Now we've got Caitlin, we've got Claudia Galdea, we've got some other pro and Andy ladies coming up behind us, and we're just all just trying to be the best. And I think that's what really matters is I think we all care about each other in different kind of ways. And I don't know what it's like to be on other teams or from the outside looking in. I don't think you have that kind of team factor in other teams that you do with us in Jersey.
Yeah. You talk about family. I saw that you posted a pic of your baby the other day. What was the point where you kind of say you needed to step away for a little bit to spend time with family? Was that kind of what that was about?
Yeah, so my daughter is always like, she lives closer to the city with her mom, and I'm always doing my camps in South Jersey, so I'm always like an hour and a half from her, and usually, I'm spoiled. Like, kids are kids. They wake you up early. They're covered in germs. They want your full blown attention. You've got to she's always like giving me snacks. I love that she shares, but I'm like, I cannot have your cookie right now, please. So I kind of try to get away the closer I get to camp. But the way things have been going, I was like, just screw it. I'm just going to spend as much time with her as possible. I'm not super, super close to weight cutting. So if if I take a bite of her cookie, it won't be the end of the world. And it's just been, I feel bad. She's kind of in between school and babysitting right now. She's old enough to start school, but we haven't been able to roll her because of the virus. So I felt like she's been at home, but with just her mom. So I was like, let me spend a little bit more time with her, take her to the park, just be a little bit more interactive during camp. Where usually in camp, I just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
So I was just a little bit different this camp, as I was much more involved with her throughout the camp versus usually it's like, okay, mama's gone for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, we'll see you later. No, this time I wanted to keep the connection throughout the camp.
Is that tougher? Is it good? I'm a dad myself, man. And I know, like you said, the kind of attention they deserve and how much you love them. I mean, as she's getting older, is it harder to pull yourself away? Because I know as a fighter, man, you got to be kind of selfish, right? I mean, it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, you definitely gotta be selfish in this game, and it is harder because she's so articulate and she's so good at expressing specifically. She's like, no, I want to go with you, and she knows when I'm grabbing my bag, she's like, are you going to go fight? And most of the time she knows okay, I'll see you tonight before bed, and then she'll know when I've been gone a while. She'll FaceTime me and be like, I want to go with you. I want you to come home. I want to go. So it does get harder because she's so much more aware of my absence when I'm not there. Yeah. So it is tough, but in the long run, I know that if I do what I'm supposed to do and I handle my career properly, then it'll be better set up for her in the long run anyway. But it's tough. It's tough.
I get it. How old is she now?
She'll be 3 in April. She'll be 3.
Time flies.
Real soon.
Time flies, yeah.
Yeah, she was just a little she was a couple months old when I was on Ultimate Fighter. So
that's it.
She should be used to it, but maybe not.
Well, talk to me the goal here. I mean, I know you've had a couple setbacks, and I mean, your whole career has been just so ups and downs. I feel like in such a short period of time, it's been such a roller coaster, right? So, what's the goal here? I mean, you're still very relevant in the division, but I know you want to get wins. I mean, is it just to get back on track? Is it to prove a point to people? I mean, what is the goal here?
The goal is to prove my point to me. The goal's always been to prove I don't really go out to prove anything to people per se. But especially with everything that's going on with the coronavirus, even before it turned into a pandemic and it was just kind of me in the fight, the goal has been to prove, like, look, I'm here and I'm a force to be reckoned with, and that's just all it is. I'm here to fight, and that was one of my big things coming into this fight. Like, look, I just want to fight frequently. I have had an up and down career, but I also feel like I've had big gaps between fights, and I feel like that kind of didn't help me get sort of a footing. Like, you know, if I take two losses in the span of, you know, 9 months, okay, but it took me a full year to get 2 fights in, and you know, I'm coming into my 5th fight in 2 years in the UFC, so there's a little bit of a gap for me in how frequently I'd like to fight. So I'm hoping, for one, I put on an exciting enough show that they turn around and book me back again right away. So the main goal is to get experience. Like, if you look at my overall career, I'm not really that far in. I think if you count the Ultimate Fighter, I've only got like 11 fights. Most people don't count that, so I've got even less. And if you look at a lot of other pros, you look at Amanda Nunes, you look at some of the other top girls in the division, even Valentina, those kind of ladies have 20-something fights before they get to the top 5 of their division. You know, I'm fighting top 10, and I'm like 4 fights in. So the goal is the frequency, honestly, and I feel like with the frequency, I can get a better sort of hang of my career, and I feel like I can start to build some momentum, and I feel like I can start to really turn some things around in this bantamweight division.
I dig it. You know, I guess we know that the fight's not taking place in New York now, which would have been in your backyard. It sounds like it could be as far as like Abu Dhabi or you know, somewhere over there. I mean, you know, if they tell you a week out, by the way, you got to fly halfway around the world, is that going to be a problem for you?
Not at all. Honestly, because they moved it to New York, I've been making sure my weight is a little bit lower than normal just in case. But I'm on pace. I'm already sub 150. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. I got my passport ready. I told Ali, I just texted Ali the other day, I said, I don't care where it is. I don't care if I can bring 1 guy, 8 guys. I don't care. I'm down. I think this is an opportunity to fight. The rest of the world is shut down. There's no live sports happening. There's nothing really going on. Everybody's quarantined. We're in a time of sort of international crises. Like, why not? Like, I'm honored just to be basically on the card. Like, I'm very confident this fight is going to happen. I think all of the fighters on the card are pushing for it to happen. I think it's going to happen no matter where it goes down. And once it does go down, it's going to be epic because we're going to be the only people in the whole entire world allowed to compete. Like, what the hell? I can't. That's exciting. I don't give a damn where it's at. You can put us in Antarctica. Like, I mean, I don't want to miss this for nothing.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you shuffling around, and yeah, no worries. I had nothing going on, so it's all good. And stay safe, and maybe we'll talk a little bit closer as once we find out where you're actually fighting.
Oh yeah, give me a buzz. I can't wait to chat with you, and I'll stay safe. Maybe I'll put my mask on, but probably not. I'm a gangster and I'm stubborn, so I'm gonna keep walking around and keep living my life. Don't tell me how to live. Corona can't tell me how to live, baby. Let's go.
All right, so Sijara Eubanks, weird spot for her right now. Like I said, on that UFC 249 card that technically right now has a date but not a location. It sounds like the location might have gone from her backyard over there in Brooklyn, New York, to halfway around the world in Dubai. But as you can tell, you know, she's trying to get her medicals done and trying to stay ready for what was going on. You know, one of the things that, and again, I mean, I don't know, man. I see the outrage in the community of MMA trying to carry on. Trust me, I see it out there, and I don't share it. I mean, I've even had some arguments on our own staff where I'm kind of in favor of mixed martial arts trying to carry on. I'm not saying carry on irresponsibly and without understanding the changes that are needed. And maybe, I don't know, man. Again, maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm silly when it comes to this stuff. I get it, man. This pandemic is serious. People are really dying. But the thing that stands out to me is, as I mentioned earlier, too, in my conversation with Simon Head, is that we're going to have to figure out changes to help it keep carrying on. Just sitting in our houses for 30 days doesn't change anything. Like, we're going to need to change procedures. We're going to need to do things differently. So I kind of like the idea of trying to move forward and trying to address things head on rather than just sit back and then in 30 days go, what? Well, we haven't been making any plans. We're just waiting. So I don't know. But cold coffee actually set this next this next opportunity, and I thought it was smart. And that was a chance to go talk to Nicksick over at Xtreme Couture. He's the gym manager over there, and of course he's a cornerman and a coach as well. And talk to him about just kind of how he's dealing with it, how the gym itself is dealing with it. I mean, this is both a local business and also a very predominant fight team as well. And so I thought it made a lot of sense to go talk to him, and I was happy that Cold Coffee set this up. And here's what Nicksick had to say. Well, of course, at this point, everything's shut down by government order, but you guys jumped out ahead of that a little bit and decided that you were going to shut down before everybody was required to. Can you just tell me what, I guess, the thought process was on you biting the bullet, so to speak, and making that call?
Right. I mean, we just sat down, myself and Ryan and Randy, and just tried to figure out what was the best case scenario for our members of the gym. And we just felt that we wanted to get ahead of it and be part of the solution rather than the problem. Obviously in an MMA gym where a lot of physical contact and people are on top of each other and training, and we just felt it was the time to do it. It was on Sunday night. Yeah.
You guys have been around for a long time. I mean, this is a very established facility, but at the same time, I mean, it's still kind of a small business, right? So, I mean, is it scary times financially? I mean, is it time to panic yet, or is everybody trying to stay calm? What's the feeling?
You know me, man. I'm a one day at a time guy. So, like right now, I'm trying to plan for the future, of course, and it's hard not to look that way. But as of today, they're just trying to do one step at a time and get everything figured out. As of right now, trying to calm a lot of the members down and calm a lot of the coaches and everyone else. This is all of our livelihoods, and I understand that. I guess the one saving grace to that is we're all in the same boat. So we're just trying to figure this out. It's new to everybody, and really just take care of one another right now.
Yeah. You guys have a ton of fighters here. Every time we come in, the fight board's covered with matchups coming up. So, there's uncertain times for sure, but there are people still getting ready for fights, right? Yeah. What can you do to help these guys and gals continue to prep for fights?
So, again, something new to us. We've what we thought was the best case scenario was, so Puna, for example, he has a fight in May. I told Puna to find a training partner that might also have a fight, or somebody that's your size and kind of a training buddy. And then Puna and Montel were in today. They were getting their work in. If Coach Nate or myself are in there to kind of supervise or help or hold pads, it keeps everything at a minimum. And then those guys are responsible for cleaning up prior to getting in here, washing their hands, cleaning themselves, and then cleaning up after themselves when they leave. So, we're a 24,000 square foot facility. We figured at the most we want to only have about 10 people in here at a time, spread out amongst the two gyms.
Nice. The guys that were on canceled fight cards, have you figured out a strategy with them? I mean, they don't know what's going on, right? But do you have advice for them on staying ready, or because we don't know what the UFC is going to do?
Right. Well, obviously, me and Francis, we had an 8-week camp together, and Cody Stamen as well. Cody's with Coach Eddie. We talked about all this stuff and just how do we stay sharp? We don't know what's going to happen. From my understanding, the word postponed has been for those fights, not canceled. So I try to keep those guys' mindset ready where it's like, hey, man, we might fight, we just don't know when. But again, it's hard. I think that was the one thing you put a whole training camp in, and that's something I think we've been accustomed to in MMA. Guys get hurt, people miss weight, something happens, fights get canceled, right? So we're not necessarily where this is new to us, but again, this whole thing with the entire cards being canceled. So really all I said to Francis was, man, no one can take away the hard work we put in for these next 8 weeks. We're going to be able to show that at some point, and just know that it wasn't all for naught.
Nice. Clearly there's a strategy for fighters. As far as the gym itself, I mean, what's the focus right now? I mean, I got to imagine cleanliness or something is part of it. What can you do in the meantime, I guess?
I think just perception for us, and I want to make sure that when the members do come back, I have a couple guys that I've kept on hourly. They're going to be tearing out the carpet and doing some upgrades and doing some things throughout the gym to where when the members do come back, I hope that they look around like, wow, these guys just weren't sitting on their butts for this time, and they actually did some upgrades. And we're going to stay in concrete. We're going to add some new equipment. We're going to do some other stuff too, which we didn't have the luxury of doing while we were open. So we're going to take advantage of that time.
Obviously, sanitation and it's always important in the gym, right? I mean, it always has been, but I think this really opens eyes. Do you think this is going to cause any lasting changes in the industry as far as maybe that idea of one training partner or whatever it is? I mean, do you think this might make some changes moving forward?
Possibly. And, being in the gym industry for about 13 years now, we know how it is, man. One guy comes in with ringworm or staph, and then it infects the entire gym. So the thing that I think that I want to echo to a lot of our training partners and our fighters is this is not about you. It's about us. So taking care of one another. If you feel sick, if you had something going on, this is bigger than you. So make sure that you know that when you're coming in here, you could possibly be infecting somebody else or somebody's grandparent, that didn't have a choice. So, I would imagine some of these bylaws are going to be passed down as we get going and figuring out how to calm this epidemic. But right now, man, it's just all new waters for us.
Yeah. I think everybody's in a state of confusion, just trying to figure out what's going on with the whole industry, as you said. I mean, if somebody were to come to you and say, what the hell am I supposed to do? I mean, do you have a message for your team, for anybody in the industry that's wondering, what are we supposed to do right now?
Same. I just got off the phone with John Wood, one of my friends. He runs Syndicate. Obviously we're competitors, but at the same time, we're also good friends and we're businessmen, and we're just trying to figure that out. Talk to Coach Casey Halstead. We as a community, it's a small fraternity of MMA gyms owners. And again, we're trying to figure this out as we go. And people look to us to be calm, right? If I'm crazy and I'm nervous, same way if I cornered a fight that way, my fighter's going to be crazy and nervous. So the way I approach them has to be calming. Although on the inside I might be doing backflips, I have to approach them calm and collect and talk to them the way I would if they were just fighting. So that's kind of my mindset right now, is just deliver the message the best I can and be calm about it.
All right, so that was Eric Nicksick over at Xtreme Couture. We got a nice video of that as well. By the way, on your brand new camera gear that you shot. So
thank you, USA Today.
Check that out. Thanks for setting that up, Cold Coffee. Appreciate that. Dude, it's, man, listen, I mean, obviously I like Eric a lot. It is scary times for small businesses especially, man. And you think about Xtreme Couture, I mean, it's a big fight gym and it's a big team. But, I mean, as with any gym, what really pays the bills is, the families and the
people
those
coming in.
members, man. That's what keeps the doors open. And
makes you wonder about the smaller gyms, like just a regular mom and pop gym. Or I have a friend back home in Columbus that has a small like yoga studio, and saw her trying to mess around with doing like a live stream yoga session just to try to get something to people. I'm sure there's going to be creative ways people can do, but you can't live stream if somebody wants to get in there and put some plates on a bar and throw it up.
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
my wife was doing a Zumba session on over
she?
Facebook chat last night. The Zumba instructor, I think that's what's called Zumba, I believe it's called, like the dance stuff, had set up like a Facebook Live camera in her house and was just like doing the whole routine and playing the music and stuff. I was like, hey, man, I can respect that. I respect that because, I think the instructor just did that on her own because I don't think the gym's paying her to do that. I mean, maybe they're just paying her anyway. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Well,
but I thought it was cool.
They probably already paid for the month, and then that's one way where maybe, if they're like, we'll get you a refund, or if they're just like, sorry, guys, at least that way they can try to keep at it. And it probably gives some normalcy to the teacher as well.
That's what I thought too. It probably just helped her keep her routine. Drysdale's, my son does BJJ over at Drysdale's, and I thought what he did was good too. He also, like Xtreme Couture, he closed down before he was mandated to close down, which it just makes sense. Like grappling, like we're saying, stay away from people. Like, but let's go grapple. Like, come on, that doesn't make sense.
Doesn't get much worse than that.
But he opened up.
He has an contact.
Yeah, exactly. he has an online tutorial session. That normally I guess you pay like either, I don't know if you buy it or you rent access to it or whatever. But he just gave everybody a free login to log in to be like, hey, listen, if you want to keep kind of learning, if you want to keep like focusing on some grappling while this is happening, you can log into my online training series for free. I thought that was cool. You know what I mean? It's a way for him to keep going. And look, I mean,
that's very cool. And the fact to give it away, I mean,
I'm sure
a lot of people are looking at ways to profit off this.
Yeah.
You saw that story of the guy that had hoarded the 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer.
And then was crying because he had no place to sell it because Amazon and eBay wouldn't let him.
And then the Attorney General, General seized a bunch of that shit and was going after him for profiteering or...
So it's
I forget what the word.
It's a crime?
They were actually
so
looking
wrong.
at
You bought all the he said it was a New York Times article. He bought all the hand sanitizer in like a 3-state area.
Something.
And was selling them for like $100 a bottle. Like, you know what, dude? Like, you're a dick. I'm sorry, bro. If you do that, you're a dick.
Yeah.
I get it, man.
Something with, I forget, I'm sure it's not profiteering is not the right one, but it was just the way that he was gouging the prices. Now he was
That's wrong.
doing whatever. But I think the attorney general was looking into whether he could do something about it. But since they actually seized it, I'm sure it'll probably be no harm, no foul, get a slap on the wrist or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a crazy turn of events. I mean, I get it. The guy was trying to turn a profit for his family, saw a moment to do it, but
not to that level.
To profit off of people's despair like this is not a good look.
It's not look. All right, so a couple things about Eric as well. Like I think everybody by this point kind of knows where I stand. I get it. This situation is serious, but we need to look toward the future. We need to look towards how we're going to change things. I love the fact that Eric's saying, "Look, here's what we decided for." How we're going to train. This is in the meantime, you got to come in, you got to sanitize. You only train with one guy,
right,
and then you sanitize afterwards. Like, this is the stuff I want to hear about. I'm so tired of seeing the online discussion over, I can't believe this organization's proceeding. I can't believe this is. I'm so sick of seeing that. What I want to hear is, how do we do it? How do we carry on in the future? So I love the fact that we're hearing changes like that. And the other thing I will say too, that was, man, I loved his mindset on it. It is true, is that, like, man, once we get a green light from the government, they're like, hey, man, things are back to better for at least a little period of time. And again, I think it's going to be a long time before we're 100% good to go. I mean, they got to get this, this vaccine done or whatever.
Yeah.
But once we get it back to they're saying, look, hey, man, people can travel or people can do whatever. Man, the UFC could put these cards back together really quickly. You know what I mean? Like, and ESPN is still going to be desperate for content. So, I mean, honestly, like, right away.
Super desperate.
Dude, they're going to be hurt. So, dude,
how
right away.
How many channels do they have, and the fact of...
And they got nothing, man.
Nothing new
it's
coming
all
in.
they got is NFL free agency to talk about right now, basically. So, like, honestly, like, once we're okay, and again, I don't think it's going to be with crowds. I think it's going to be behind closed doors for a while. But they could very easily be like, hey, man, you go, oh, well, there's only so many Saturday nights. Nah, dog. They could do Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday. I mean, there is going to be such a need for live sporting content. So I will say, as desperate as these times seem and as upsetting and frustrating and sad in a lot of ways that it is, they could literally take those whole cards that got postponed and just be like, you're now on Wednesday, you're now on Friday, you're now on Sunday. I mean, you never know. So that does give me a little bit of hope, I guess, that these, that we could get some fights back in I mean, I'm not super. I'm not going to say I'm super sure that UFC 249 is going to happen. I know nobody wants to talk about that. Knock on wood once again that we don't have to reschedule Khabib and Tony. Dude, Khabib and Tony, I'm just saying this. If that fight gets canceled, those two just need to pick a spot and just take a film crew, man.
You tell me where.
Will can go over there, Anatomy of a Fighter. He can just go over there and shoot stuff, man. I mean, let's just take a camera crew. We'll bring a camera.
Yep. Tell us where it's at. We'll show up.
We'll show up,
we
man.
will show up, and I will stream it if I can. It's funny. It's crazy. You mentioned, and this is just us jumping off topic a little bit, but you mentioned the NFL thing. What'd you think about Tom Brady leaving the Patriots and going to
Tampa Bay?
Tampa Bay.
I thought that was shocking.
I was trying to think about that in MMA terms. We have some people that are long time for one particular gym.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be a person that would be like the equivalent, leaving a long time gym establishment, like so-and-so will never leave ATT, but then they jump ship and go to,
It'd be like Thiago Alves leaves ATT and goes to AKA or something like that,
or Cormier leaves
AKA and rolls to
like
American Top Team or Jackson's. He's like, man, I need to go to Jackson's.
I'm just gonna switch it up and go to Jackson.
That would be weird.
It is just crazy. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, because I figured at some point, when we saw him talking in Vegas, we joked about, oh, he's gonna go to the Raiders. Like, nobody really thought that.
Well, Dana was saying behind the scenes, he's like, I heard it's a done deal. He's like, Dana was saying
that he was leaving, or that he was
leaving, and that he was going to the Raiders.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dana was saying, I'm sure he's coming to the Raiders.
That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, when I was thinking about that, I was like, man, that is crazy. You just think of the one with the other, and it made me think, like, who would that be in MMA? Like, what would be the equivalent of
it was funny.
leaving?
So I saw, again, there's nothing on TV, so I had like a draft cover or free agency coverage thing on last night, and they did show a stat. He's the first player in NFL history to leave a team after having 20 years with one franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years
At that
with one
point,
franchise.
they're always like, "Oh, I'm just going to retire out."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you see some people. I mean, not 20 years.
He's probably
but
hard
you
up
do
for
see
money,
some
man.
people.
He's probably hard up for
Yeah,
money.
you know, he's got a terrible life at home. He goes home to his ugly
yeah.
wife.
You know what I mean? He's got to be.
like,
He's got to hate going home and
I
he's
just
like,
want to play that game where I get smashed by big dudes. Life is tough for that guy. But you know, you do sometimes, and I wouldn't be surprised. You've seen other situations where guys are longtime players at a team. They'll leave, and then they get like the one-day contract, so they can retire out.
Emmett
or something.
Smith did that. Emmett Smith left. Went from the Cowboys, went to go play for the Cardinals.
Yeah,
and then came back and got the one-day deal so he could retire as a Cowboy.
I wouldn't be surprised if the door isn't open for that sort of thing to happen. But I'm sure he's getting another big paycheck. I'm not sure what the deal is, or I haven't seen any numbers or amount of years or whatever. But crazy. It's crazy.
Weird.
And I bet our listeners have maybe some other suggestions of who they think would be. Who would be the equivalent that you guys can think of a Tom Brady leaving the Patriots and going somewhere else? Who would be the equivalent in MMA terms of leaving a team and going somewhere else? I think Cormier in the AKA that's a big one.
I mean, Rockhold ended up down in Florida, and that was a little bit shocking, but it was always like, I mean, he always said, you know, he handled it the right way. I think he always said, that's my team, but there's nobody really there for me to train with right now.
That's
like,
true.
they're still my people, but I'm with Henry Hooft right now. Just, you know.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Interesting.
I think Cormier is a good
Cormier's
example.
a huge one.
All right, so we spend most of our time talking about MMA because I personally don't watch anything but MMA.
And
but
it's kind of in the name of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of helps.
There's but I'd want to ask. So since listen, we're gonna do some stuff on MMA Junkie where we go through some history of MMA type stuff. Here's some things to watch on Fight Pass. Blah blah.
You hand me
But
another one of those award-winning.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly pass these over. But I get it. With as much free time and time at home as we have now, not everybody's going to be MMA all the time. So I did want to ask you if you have any viewing recommendations for people out there, because I'm gonna throw out a couple.
like TV shows,
like regular TV, like not MMA stuff, because I've got a couple. I've been
At
watching.
first when you said regular, I was like, on regular TV?
No.
I'm
I'm just saying stuff that
who
people
still
can watch
watches that?
outside of MMA. Yeah, no, you got to be able to get it with bunny ears. If you can get it with bunny ears,
What's funny, even like some of the shows that I like to watch are on their own like CBS, but I watch them on the CBS All Access app,
Of course.
not on the actual channel.
So I want to give two that I ended up watching this week in the first week of the pandemic lockdown. Both are on HBO Go. So it's a premium service. Hopefully, not everybody will have that, but I'm sure people have ways of watching it. But McMillions documentary. I like documentary type stuff, and it's a story of how the Monopoly game back in McDonald's. Everybody remember that when we were kids growing up?
Yep.
How it was completely rigged,
Super rigged
from day one, and it's I think it's like a 6 or 7 part documentary, but it's entertaining. Just the characters and the people that are in it are insane.
What's it called?
McMillions. Yeah, it's really good, man. The story itself is great. I watched the whole thing. I'd watched a couple episodes before, but I finally got a chance to finish and watch that. So put that one on your list. I thought it was entertaining. And then another one, a little this was kind of out of left field a little bit, but also on HBO Go. Righteous Gemstones is a fantastic series that I enjoyed the hell out of. It's what's the dude, Kenny Powers? What's his name? God damn, I don't. This just goes to show you
the actor's name.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what the actor's name is.
You know how little I watch TV. So
Yeah.
that dude, whoever that
Okay,
dude is,
yeah.
that dude is one of the stars of it.
That's all. He's
but
funny.
dude, it's phenomenal, and it's a story about like a televangelist family, and like they're super wealthy, like ridiculous, like billionaires, and like it's how, you know, the business side of it, and they're like who they are, their characters behind the scenes. So anyway, it's kind of weird. Like I had honestly I just hit it by accident, man. But I love the hell of it. Danny McBride is the guy's name, by the way. Danny McBride is his name.
Okay,
John Goodman is in it as well.
Oh, that's
so
good.
oh, dude, it's phenomenal. So if you want to give something different a shot, try Righteous Gemstones. I thought, and by the way, it is very not safe for your coworkers type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're all working from home.
That's what I'm saying. If your kids are your coworkers nowadays, you definitely don't want to watch around the little ones. But holy shit, dude, I have not laughed out loud
That's
so
awesome.
hard at some of the scenes that are in there. So Documentary, McMillions, I liked. It was just it reminded me of my childhood because I remember the game.
Yeah.
And you never knew anybody that won. Well, now you know why nobody won.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see how the whole thing played out. And then Righteous Gemstones had me cracking up multiple times over the course of it. So check that out. So those are my recommendations.
That's
Any
I do
teed
remember
up for
winning
you?
like some fries, I think, as a kid, or maybe you got like a soda or something, but you never got the full meal or something.
Yep.
I like the sci-fi and like the fantasy sort of stuff. So a couple of I'll throw you out a few that I've been watching. I blazed through, I think, in a day or two, season 2 of Altered Carbon.
Okay.
That's on Netflix. Futuristic sort of body swapping reality where your consciousness is in these discs that you can go, and they call the bodies like sleeves, so you can, like if you wanted the John Morgan sleeve, they would put their consciousness in this disc, and you could download your consciousness. So like if you died, whatever your last backup was is what they could boot into something else. I mean, but it's futuristic, and there's like gunplay and sword play and all kinds of like really cool shit. So I blazed through the season 2 of Altered Carbon, which was awesome. If you haven't seen that series of the first season, it is really, really, really cool.
Where's that on?
That's on Netflix.
On Netflix, okay.
Yeah, the Altered Carbon. Oh man, it's so darn good. I didn't even realize the second season came out, and somebody told me it, and I literally binged it. I think it was like one day. I didn't even realize that I was doing it, and it was like 3 a.m. I was like, oh my God, go to bed, dude. But it was just, the show just grabs you. I love it. Another one I stumbled upon accidentally the other day, I want to say it's on HBO now, is his Dark Materials. And it's actually sort of more, I don't know if kids like, but one of the main star is this young actress. It has the actor from Hamilton in there as well. But they did a movie years back, because it's based on a series of books, and one of the books in America is known as The Golden Compass.
Okay.
Even though the actual the book was Northern Lights, but The Golden Compass had Nicole Kidman, had this young girl, and they had like these warring, all these people, they had these, what they called their demons, but their animal spirit. So I always wonder like what Diego Sanchez's animal spirit would be, but it's actually in a form that can talk, and it follows you along. Whereas when the person dies, your demon dies or whatever. But it has it's a series, but it's all sci-fi sort of based and stuff, and has multiple sort of things, but it has magic and witches and other stuff, and I love all that fantasy sort of stuff. But I happened to stumble upon that the other day, and it had like a good preview, so I was like, oh, let me just give this a try. I've never heard of his Dark Materials, and as soon as I started watching, I was like, dude, this is a total ripoff of that Golden Compass movie that happened. And then I realized, okay, they're made after the same thing. So I saw that, just started the other day, and I literally fired through that. And then to round out my sci-fi trio,
dude, if it wasn't for MMA and beer, you and I would have no shared interest
I know.
whatsoever.
I'm like, let me show you this sci-fi show. Is Picard.
Okay.
people-
Is that the
That's
Star
the
Trek
Star Trek.
spinoff
It's
or whatever?
it's the recent Star Trek one, and it is fantastic.
Really?
I love the look of it. It's just beautiful. I don't know if they actually shot on film or the digital cameras they're using are replicating, but Jean-Luc Picard is older, and he's back to his old ways, man. And Patrick Stewart, I love Patrick Stewart. I think he's a fantastic actor, but it's just cool because he was such a, now my theater side's coming out. He was a wonderful actual stage performer as well, and then was lucky enough to stumble upon Star Trek and became this huge like sci-fi person, and now he's an older gentleman, but he's still getting really, really good work for this, so I'm really, really happy for him. But for Trekkies, the last couple Star Trek shows, the Star Trek Discovery and then this Picard, I think are fantastic. But it's on CBS, but
Okay.
being us that we don't do like we used to do as kids, where it's like, what, Tuesday night at 8
Yeah,
o'clock,
yeah.
you had to be there waiting on the TV.
Yeah.
Now you can either DVR it, or I watch it on CBS All Access when it's just on demand.
I tell you what, man, it's funny. I mean, obviously, no secret, streaming services are going to crush it right now. When this thing was starting, I thought, what the UFC should do? The UFC should just make Fight Pass like free for everybody, for like 30 days or 60 days or something like that. You know, I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, man, that would just be such a good business move. Like the PR you would generate and potential customers. You know, like, hey, we're looking out for you, America. You're stuck in your house. We got you. And it's funny. I did see, I think the NFL and the NBA both did that with like their league pass or whatever. I mean,
Really?
they're not in season, right? Well, the NBA's in season, but so it's not like it's live programming, but it's just their archival programming. Like you can go watch it, and I was like, man, just the PR,
That would be really good PR,
bro. The
if
PR
all
you
the
got, I was
streaming
like,
companies did
we
that.
got you. I know.
Yeah.
I was like, do you think Netflix or Disney Plus would do that? And she was like, hell no. Like, there's too much money involved.
Boy,
But like,
Disney Plus would just kill it for people with all their kids that
we
needed
know
to be
your
able to
kids are
show
stuck
something.
here, but here,
Wow.
dude, the PR you would generate, and of course, it would be free, but you would have to give your credit card. You know what I mean?
And if you don't cancel it after 30 days, it
Then you're locked
automatically
in. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I don't know. To me, it just seems like a natural, like, hey, man, it's a positive PR move, but it also helps generate customers as well. Like, that just seems like a no-brainer, dude. Like, every streaming
that's a
service.
good idea.
Netflix probably doesn't have to because they got, like, 80% of the country already. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But still, just like,
which would be really good PR and be great for them. But it made me think. At first, I wasn't sure where you're going to go with it, but it did talk about, and I just want to knock on wood as I'm talking about it. I remember you had said the other day, you know, with all the strain of people working at home, the load on the internet,
Oh,
the load
Jesus
on
Christ.
the internet carriers all
But
around here, like
stop talking.
I
Stop
know,
talking.
like
Don't say it.
you know,
it's like
that-
we don't talk about Habib versus Tony because we don't want anything to happen to it.
Don't talk about
Don't
internet
talk
issues.
about potential internet fail. Dude, if the internet fails, oh my God.
Our economy would just be crushed. Done. And
Done.
all those people that were in lines for their guns and stuff would literally lose their minds.
Oh my God. Stock
Like-
up on award-winning PBR.
Which thankfully seems to be on the shelves, no problem.
Thank God.
I don't know why people aren't making a run
Why
on
do
it
you
like
hoard
us.
for water when you got frosty beverages?
Right?
It's amazing. All right, well, listen, we have
Crazy.
talked long enough. Like I said, hey, moving forward, listen, it's going to be an interesting. We hope it's only 30 days. We'll see what happens. It's an interesting time in the world. Look, we are going to do our best to keep this to MMA talk. So if you're a long-time listener or a new,
Unless you want
a
to
new
talk Star
listener,
Trek.
unless you want to talk, science fiction, in which case, Cold Coffee will definitely talk about. I mean, listen, we're not going to be able to not talk coronavirus. We're not going to be able to not talk about it at all because it is going to continue to impact our lives. But I do not want this to be, you know, some kind of debate over it or whatever. Like
It's just our reality now.
It's our reality now. So we'll have to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I want this to remain about MMA, and I want us to be able to have fun, relax, get a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of unplug because life is tough right now. So for everybody out there, man, like stay safe. You know, I mean, do what you're supposed to do. Look out for your family. Enjoy this time that we have at home. I mean, do some good stuff around the house, and you know, try to make the best you can. And we'll be here for you, I promise. And as always, just thanks for listening.